I think that
Hutch is gonna go to Mexico, but he- All right, let's start here at couple minutes after 1. I'd like to call together the town of Alpha work session for December 10th, 2015. It's 2 minutes after 3. This is a work session and discussion on the water and sewer master plan, which you're gonna introduce.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so we started, working with Hanson Allen Luce, Delmas Johnson and Easton Hopkins, some time ago. And,
It's probably 18 months.
yeah, about 18 months. Yeah, I think it was, yeah. And, you know, we've been working with, sort of components of the entire scope of work they provided for us. We've reviewed the recommendations on fire flows and discussed those with the fire department. And we've also, we sort of went ahead and incorporated their capital improvement recommendations, or most of the capital improvement recommendations for actual standalone projects into our capital projects plan. And we've been discussing some of those numbers and approaches to funding in our larger conversations about capital improvement planning and future of our budgets and revenue needs and so on and so forth. We got a little bit lost in the sort of compilation of comments from all the folks who participated in the project. We did have service area number 3 and Steve McIntosh, our sewer operator, participating pretty closely in the project. And then we sort of just finally polished that off over the last couple of months. And would sort of put a bow on it to have these guys come up and speak with you about their findings. We had a nice meeting a couple of weeks ago to talk about you know, one of the major topics on our outlook with pulmonary water in particular is our water source capacity, and you know, just how to not let that topic get out of hand as visitation increases. You know, more people are using plumbing fixtures, and we get more development connected to the system, and we do have a finite constraint on that. So anyway,
Let me say that I went through the nights this morning, and it looks like a very complete number that you've given. And I'm looking forward to seeing the western half of the town, because all of the slides that are on landscape only show up on the web showing the eastern half.
Okay,
Oh, do they get cropped somehow?
well, we got a hard copy report.
Okay, that'll probably do it.
Or two as well, so.
Anyway, we may want to, for the record and people being able to access this later, fix that.
Yeah, I wonder if it was your screen?
My screen was this wide, the picture was that wide. So you can check it out.
Yeah.
All right, excuse
Okay,
me.
if you're ready. So we want to keep this fairly informal, and this is a work session. If you have questions along the way, let's just interject and please share what's on the way.
Say
So-
again your name.
Delmas Johnson.
Okay.
We're gonna be following this material.
Yes, yeah, we're just summarizing what's in those documents. Cool. That's a draft version. There is a final one, tweaked a little bit after what you have there.
Okay, thank you.
So we've been working with the town of Alpha on these drinking water and sanitary sewer master plans and CI capital improvement plans for some time, but we're grateful to have wrapped that up recently, and
So again.
it's not moving. I just pushed the arrow, right?
Yeah, the big one in the middle.
Oh, there we go. So this is important. We wanted to state this purpose is to give you specific direction to the town regarding decisions that you can make over the next 20 years to help you remain sustainable and to continue to deliver this adequate quantity and quality drinking water to your customers. So that's the mission of this effort at a reasonable cost. So there's a lot of words here, but this is basically an overview of our methodology. So we're reviewing your drinking water sources, your storage facilities, the distribution system that connects everything together with pump stations, valves, and other components. And then we also look at seasonal demands, because you do have that. You do have emergencies that have occurred from time to time, and then fire suppression is a critical need for a water system, particularly for the town of Alta.
Do you distinguish fires from emergencies?
Yes.
I see. And what would an emergency be? There's not a fire.
Perhaps you get a system failure of some kind. Maybe a pump goes out and you can't get the water where you need to get it to.
Can't get the water. Okay.
Or maybe your water quality deteriorates in a tank.
All right.
And you have to take it offline for a period of time to clean it and disinfect it.
Mhm.
Those kind of emergencies. And then a critical piece to this is the water data, your use data that you have, that we used, and we looked at that, and Easton's gonna speak to that later more. And all of this is following the guidance that we get from the state rules in R309, administered by the State Division of Drinking Water. So just know that's the template we follow. And in the process, we developed computer models, numeric models, to do the analysis of your drinking water system as well as the sewer system. We'll go into the details of that. Okay, so this is just a map of your existing drinking water system. And there's a legend down on the bottom right corner. But it's partially covered, so. Anyway, that's Easton helped me there. That's just showing the different pipe sizes, right?
Yep.
On the legend.
Yep, pipe diameters.
Okay, so you can see the storage tanks are identified, the piping, where the tunnel is. And all your major distribution system is identified there.
And it appears that that piece in the upper right is not connected to the rest of it.
It is, it's just pink and
Oh,
hard
it's
to
pink,
see
okay, all right,
in this
all right,
on the TV.
all right.
I got really worried too.
Very light.
The salmon is,
Yeah, there is a pipeline that connects to Grizzly, yes. Okay, then this next image is a schematic that I think is helpful to show hydraulically how your system operates. So you can see the tanks, the different elevations, you can see where the pump is. Just have a pointer.
Might not work on
It
the
does
TV.
work on TV.
Anyway, the purple pump there in the middle, off of the tunnel. And then the potential, there is a connection to go to the Snowbird area if it need be, that can be opened. But it goes down to the lower Alta zone, so there's 3 zones. Basically, the Grizzly, the upper and the lower Alta pressure zones. Anything you want to add on that, Easton?
No, you got it.
Okay. So level of service is since the rules were changed by the legislature about 7 years ago, it's very important to define for each system. They used to just have a blanket requirement for all water systems in the state. And there were some people that pushed back and proposed some different legislation. That difference between it varies by water system. And so it's important to define what your level of service is on volume and pressure. And so this is the proposed level of service that we came up with. Your peak day demand, 257 gallons per day per ERC. At Easton, that's kind of, I don't know, where's that around?
That's
medium, low,
low.
that's low,
Lower.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
low.
Yeah,
Versus other communities.
Compared to other, systems, we do
very
big
efficient.
master plan efforts for lots of cities all over, especially along the Wasatch Front, so 257 is lower.
Yeah,
a big factor there is that we don't have irrigation.
Yep.
It's not permitted up here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, it's just, we've talked about ERC values recently, the Shronza State found 242, remember? And it all varies substantially from the 800 gallons per day state standard that's been kind of out there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, most indoor systems range between 200 to 400 gallons per day per ERC. Pretty typical.
So, and as long as, make sure you're aware of what an ERC is, we're gonna fill that acronym out all afternoon. Equivalent residential connection, that's what that stands for. We love acronyms in the water business, so we do that a lot. So the average yearly demand is just a volume for that rate, corresponding volume for that per ERC. And then we also have the equalization storage necessary for your system is 187 gallons per ERC. So that's the proposed level of service. So we looked at existing and future conditions for your system. So we first looked at it existing, and you can see there's currently 855 connections in the Alta zone and just 6 in the Grizzly. Whereas we're projecting in the future, is that 20 years from now? You still help me remember.
It's just whenever they reach the
Build out. It's built out, okay.
the contract limit.
Yeah, so I'm probably getting ahead a little bit here, but Alta has a very unique situation with your contract water supply, which you're probably already aware of. And so your future is limited by that unless you're able to procure another water source, which would require additional water rights. And it would also require authorization by Salt Lake City to verify there's no conflict between another water source and their source. But I'm not gonna get any more into that. But you can see we're projecting 1,030 potential ERCs when you hit your contract limit. Okay, I already was speaking about that, so your physical source limitation, 230. It's 0.81 acre feet daily. And the source capacity there, you can see the numbers. Question?
On that capacity, it's 1,000, you did that based upon what our current water allocation is. As opposed to what we thought our growth stuff might be from available lots and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, and that can vary depending on what that growth looks like, right?
Yeah.
And so,
And the Shronza State stuff has an old water allocation, so it doesn't come out of ours, is that
it
right?
does, no, the volume of it comes out of 265, so yes, they're entitled to 8,000 gallons, so our limit is actually
Lower.
257. So that's not something we don't always address that when we use those figures, so.
Right.
Well, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but.
But just diving a little deeper into this question, if I'm understanding the methodology, you're suggesting that we're gonna have 1,030 taps when we run out of water. When we've
when
used our
you
allocation.
maximize your contraction.
So when we think about how many more hotel rooms could we support?
Yeah.
That's the answer is the 150 difference between the two.
Yeah,
Or single family homes or ERCs, I guess.
yeah, and it's important to know that assumes that existing people aren't using any more.
Right.
That could cut into it more.
Right, that's
Yeah.
potentially a more impactful factor, how many ski area visitors a day, for instance, so anyway.
So that's really about 20% more than we have will be done.
That's consistent,
860, 1030, it's about 20% higher.
yeah, that's consistent with other calculations we make,
Interesting.
yeah.
So the conservation practices you already currently have implemented or practicing, you want to keep those. So you can have more certainty on water usage of current connections going forward. That conservation mindedness is important, so you don't get too much variability. Okay, Easton, do you read before you want to take over?
Yeah, whenever you'd like. I
Alright.
can talk about it here. Yeah. Little switch.
I mean, one clear conservation practices, disallow rotation.
Yeah.
That's true in the
Yes.
valley, but I don't know how many of us irrigate.
It's already in place, so we're not allowed, the contract doesn't know.
But yeah, I know it doesn't, but the point is that our consumption is lower than many others because of that.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, you have no outdoor water use.
Lever
Yeah.
pull.
I mean, we do some irrigation, when you're re-vegging, you have to do irrigation, plant a tree, like a
Yeah.
real live tree, not just the sapling, you have to irrigate it,
Pretty minor,
a couple years.
yeah.
so that this table on the left that shows the remaining peak day annual contract capacity, that's kind of the driving factor behind remaining source capacity. So 0.13 acre feet, we kind of derive that from reviewing billing data, reviewing SCADA data, information from the pump station, things like that, and it's been pretty consistent this last couple of years with a little bit of an increase. A lot more people skiing, for sure.
Do you understand the difference between peak day and average annual?
Okay.
Yeah, average annual, lots of capacity, you know, during the summertime, not a lot of people are using water, so. Frees up some there. I don't think this is working right. So another big effort that we spent a lot of time on was kind of understanding the storage capacity. So like Chris said, we worked with the town of Alta, the United Fire Authority, yeah, and then just town of Alta staff, to kind of look at what the existing storage looks like. So you have two tanks, you know, the Alta tank, that's the main one, it's 0.365 million gallons. And then the little Grizzly tank up there serving those few connections, 0.01 million gallons. So next slide.
It's interesting that your standard unit is millions of gallons.
Yeah,
That's gonna show you where you're coming from.
yeah, you'll get there one day.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Only 20% more.
So the big thing we found was the fire storage requirement. You have some big hotels, big commercial users, they require a lot of fire flow capacity. So based on the existing total capacity, the current fire flow storage requirement exceeds the available capacity. So technically the system is deficient in fire flow capacity. And so if you look, I have the existing equalization, so that's just how much storage is needed to help kind of serve daily fluctuations in water use, kind of help offset source capacity and demands, you know, you have days in the, or times in the day where you're using more water versus others. So those are pretty small, 0.16 and 0.19 have existed in the future. But kind of what we found is that you need another 0.5 million gallons to kind of see through build out.
And one of the opportunities you have to be proactive here is in emergency storage, which is discretionary for a water system. You can determine how much you feel is appropriate. Fire storage is defined, but emergency storage. So that's why we're recommending 500,000 gallon in additional storage. That's got emergency storage built into that.
Roughly how much?
About 2.2 million.
0.2 million gallons emergency storage,
Yeah, so your build out requires.
200,000 gallons.
Yeah.
So what's really required is more like 300.
Yep,
Correct.
So when we talk about the Schwantz Estate tank at 180,000,
That's close.
it would get us pretty close.
Decent chunk, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also like a convenient off the rack size for a water tank too, Rip.
Yes. Yeah, well, there are lots of 500,000 gallon water storage tanks in the state, so. The contractors gonna be very able to construct them.
yeah, so. We found we need more storage, so we spent a lot of time kind of looking at different alternatives, kind of see what would be the best, where would it be the best for the tank. So we have, there's a lot of words again, but 3 locations adjacent to the existing town of Alta tank. One up in the Grizzly area, and the Schwantz Estate development. They each have their advantages and disadvantages, you can kind of see them up there. Whether it be cost or ability to kind of maintain data and have more access to it, or land limitations, things like that. So this kind of outlines that for future planning efforts, once you kind of get more into the details. And so another big component of this is we built a hydraulic model to kind of look at how the system operates. And it's really insightful. We used it for the cross tow pipeline. They're gonna get an idea of some of that too. So it's been very good. So this output here shows the pressures that were modeled. So it's a 24-hour simulation. You can take data and It reflects actual conditions, so this was the actual peak day, I think 2 years ago. So yeah, just a fun picture to show pressures, looks great, we didn't see any significant issues with that.
Yeah, R 309, the rules require a minimum pressure of 45 PSI. System has to maintain at all times, so you're clearly.
Yep, lots of elevation to work with.
Yep.
And then this one is we can simulate what the available fire flow is at each hydrant. And so you can see there's, I think majority of it has sufficient fire flow, you're getting over, if you see blue dot, that's good, you're getting over 2,000 gallons per minute. And so we kind of use these results to inform the capital improvement plan for projects that should be put in place to kind of increase that fire flow capacity. So kind of hard to see, but here are the projects. And so I think there's 5, maybe 4. Can't read that far away. 4. So we have 3 pipelines, and that red one there has already been,
That's the cross toe.
that's installed, right? I don't want to speak.
Almost.
Yeah.
Just not operational yet, right?
And that will be,
Well, they didn't do the little stick into the parking lot, to the utility conflicts with the construction projects.
yeah. So yeah, that's a great project. It'll give a lot of system redundancy instead of one way down to serve those lower residents. Now you have 2 ways to come down, so it's really great.
And for a hydraulic model, looping is very, very efficient.
Yeah,
And so even though it may look redundant to you, if you can move water more than one way, it gives you a ton of resiliency and flexibility.
Yeah.
And the model reflected that as we added that cross toe pipeline in.
yeah. They increased fire flow capacity as well, so that's a great other thing. And then we have 2 other pipelines kind of on that far west side there, the green and yellow. It's increasing the green is increasing one of the pipelines to an 8-inch instead of a 6 to help with fire flow capacity, redundancy, things like that. And then actually connecting that with that yellow one.
Now, was that because of pipe size or was challenge with fire flows?
Both. Yeah,
Both. Okay.
yeah.
Didn't we do one of those projects a couple of years ago?
No, we did solicit design proposals for the yellow line, and then when we canceled it for some reason that we can talk about, but
Oh,
And-
and then what got done?
there have been a couple small projects on water and sewer down there, but nothing this impactful.
Yeah, and then the final project is that new storage tank.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, John, you may have been talking about PRV.
Yeah,
There's a new, I believe this line was replaced and there was a new PRV.
And the hydrant in that
And a
area too,
hydrant.
right?
Yeah, and in previous states, so.
right, but
Yeah.
we didn't get it run down to, weren't able to get it run down to Hellgate.
Correct.
Yeah, and then that final project's the new storage tank.
And that new storage tank you're proposing is where?
So we have it just right by the existing Alta tank at the moment.
Okay,
But just depends on what ends up being the most feasible.
Yeah, you've already got the infrastructure, so putting it next to the existing tank is an option, but you could also put more up at Grizzly if you had an opportunity to.
Yeah.
To the higher elevation.
This one on the side. Yeah, so here's just kind of a summary of these projects, the 3 pipelines and then the 1 storage tank. And then we have cost estimates as well. Just a little disclaimer with the cost accuracy minus 50% or plus 100%. They're quite variable.
Very fluid with things.
Yeah, but we just wanted to give you an idea of the costs to implement these projects and kind of help you with planning. Things like that.
Just a recent observation that we've noted in the last 6 months is that the costs have stabilized a little bit. Don't know how long it'll stay that way, but we're not seeing the huge increases we did since the pandemic. Seems to plateau a little bit.
So those were infrastructure things, and now we have kind of some other recommendations that we found that we've talked quite a bit about. So an easy one, update SCADA to take more frequent readings and expand monitoring parameters. So that will help you track the data.
And SCADA is just a remote data transmission, software, so.
is our remote read meters satisfying that?
This SCADA is at the Bay City, so this would be better monitoring of the master meter, more or less.
So taking more frequent readings, pretty much collecting more data, that's the
Yeah.
big thing.
And also monitor what you're pumping, have a flow meter at your pump. So you can monitor what the actual pump rate is,
Yeah,
and then tank levels, I don't know if you're talking about that.
yeah, that's the second bullet point, yeah.
Including in your SCADA system to know in real time where your tank levels are at. Cause that's a very good decision tool for operators.
And that can help inform your peak day use as well. Maybe you can use your storage a little bit more, so you don't have to pump from the source the entire day. Or you can maybe expand the capacity a little bit. And then the final one's just, track daily water usage, each year, because that's kind of the limiting factor for source. I wanna make sure that's not.
But you're talking in aggregate, not at the smart meter individual level, right? Okay.
Yeah, we are suggesting more frequent readings from that meter because the data we had was, it was more than 24 hours. right?
1.18 days.
Yeah, so there was only a data point every 1.18 days.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to really calculate. We had to do some data massaging, calculating what the actual
Yeah.
day was.
We found that it captured a morning, night, and a morning, so 3 peaks. And so we were looking at the numbers like, oh, we're almost out of capacity. And we're like, oh, we gotta take out an extra morning. This is a little more reasonable.
So if you had data on an hourly basis, that was a minimum, that would be an improvement.
Yeah. And I think that's all we had for drinking water. Yeah, any other questions?
Where are we in smart meter coverage?
I'd say we're about 65-70% there.
Okay.
Most of the easy ones are done. So we have what I refer to as the problem children lab, where we have to involve plumbers, and so it's like. Or reroute stuff, yeah, so I mean, we're,
Do you have that on project timeline at all?
on project timeline.
And just have you extrapolate how long it's gonna take to complete it, how much
I
money?
bet you it's gonna take us 2 more years to get 100% of them done, to be honest. But it's just, hopefully we'll get this, all the scary ones were on the list for this fall. So we're getting close.
And most of the residential's done and it's
A
commercial.
lot of it except for the ones where it just involves a plumber and gets a little more tacky, and unfortunately, there's a lot of questions in each one of the situations of like, okay, what's the right way to do this? Right now, the meter's on the outside versus the inside, but our ordinance says you're supposed to have the meter on the inside, so then it's like, well, who's responsible? So there's a lot of questions that kind of come into most of these situations, but yes. all
Pretty
these-
amazing though, one day last summer, you guys called me and said, you have a toilet running upstairs in your house, and there was a toilet running upstairs.
Yeah, oh no, I mean, it's amazing, I mean.
Pretty nice.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it is amazing.
When you set up for the system, I mean, I know I have it on my house in Sandy, you can set up all these thresholds, you can have this threshold set at 0. So you know exactly how much water you're using every day, and the reason you know when there's a leak is when it's always running. Cause usually if stop starts, but as soon as the water starts running nonstop, there's a leak. It's always kind of the indication, so. It's great technology, I would say our residents have been a little reluctant to sign up for it, only maybe 50% of the people that have it available to them that actually signed up for it.
Oh.
To track it, which is unfortunate, I think personally as a homeowner, but it's up to them.
And then, the last question I had was, given the need for another tank, should we think through what would be optimal, assuming the Schrott's tank goes in from our perspective, so we're actually proposing something to them rather than reacting to something that they give us?
I mean, the development agreement says, they may offer to build a bigger tank, but we certainly can't obligate them to, so we maybe not consider partnering.
But yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
If
it's
we
really
say,
a project.
all right, we know what your calculations are, and gee, instead of 180, we'd like it to be, 400 or 500, whatever meets our fire requirements.
Yeah,
Just what's rates, cost splitting, that kind of stuff.
320, I think.
That's where your new site's gonna come in handy.
And
That's where your new site's gonna come in.
it's like, you modeled, I think you modeled another 500,000 gallons of storage. Up there, or maybe it's, You don't even need to model it. Is there any reason to assume it would perform differently?
Right.
That's in Grizzly Gulch as opposed to at the current location?
So the biggest thing is the elevation, making sure the elevations match. And then you have to probably prop that one a little higher, so you would need a pipeline to connect it to the rest of the system. You'll lose a lot more pressure through that pipeline because it's having to come much further than the residents. So it'll be a little harder to get it to cooperate.
Yeah,
And then
it's
you'll
way
have-
up high on the steep
Yeah.
slope.
You have to build a big pipe to connect into the system,
Yeah.
so it might be a little trickier all around.
Maybe it's not a good idea.
Well, so usually a good natural next step is a take siting study. You kind of get more in the weeds, look at elevations, look at the conditions of the geotech and what infrastructure you need and kind of get more in the weeds there on that high level.
Yeah, kind of some preliminary engineering.
That's what we kind of found in the table is that by the tank, the existing tank, you have transmission capacity really right there. It's a little cheaper if it were just out.
Okay, into the sewer.
Yeah, but we're gonna do a little switch again.
Good.
So. Yeah, okay, so this one, we communicated, coordinated with, obviously the town of Alton, also Sully County Service Area number 3. To do this because of their involvement, and they convey wastewater all the way down the canyon around the treatment plant. So they were a part of this, we had a data set. From wastewater flow monitoring and review to see what you were seeing in your system. Then we analyzed that, characterized that, this you described a minute ago to see what peaks and ebbs are in that data. And then we look at inflow and infiltration. So what is coming into your collection system that you really don't want there? What's coming in anyway? It's maybe joints or there's where a pipe comes into a manhole, there's a fracture of some kind, it's groundwater seeping in. So that we try to characterize how much of that is happening and you will show those results. And we also created a hydraulic model here to evaluate the capacity that you have. And then we identified the existing deficiencies and then we also looked forward, look at future loading in the sewer and what challenges that may present. And then we created a capital facilities plan to correct those existing deficiencies and accommodate future growth. So there we go. Okay, so this is a map of your sewer collection system. And again, you need the colors of the different pipe sizes. And I can't see it from here, but there's a lot of 6-inch,
8 and 10,
8 and 10.
yeah, usually bigger than the drinking water pipe.
Yes. And that's because your sewer flows open channel, okay, you don't want a collection system to be pressurized unless you're pumping it. So you want it to stay an open pipe, you want it to be open channel, so generally the pipe is larger, because you don't want it to be completely full. So we identified, we call this ERUs, equivalent residential units. And that's a practice that I personally like to follow because we want to create a division between drinking water and sewer. And so by using a different acronym, we want to avoid confusion between the two. So ERU implies you're talking about wastewater and sanitary sewer collection system. So your hydraulic loading is per ERU is 260 gallons per day. And the existing there, you can see there's from the Alta Zone 855, the 6 from Grizzly, for a total of 861. And in the future, again, we're projecting same number of ERU as the drinking water because it's tied to your water supply. And you have no outdoor water use, so it's always sent in and out that way. Unless you got inflow and infiltration or leaks that manifest themselves. Slide. Easton, you want to speak for these charts? Yeah, that you created it.
Yeah. So the kind of like Donna said, the I&I, how much is getting into the system that it wasn't there before, whether it's from the groundwater or all of this snow. And so what we did is we tracked the monthly water usage each month and compared it against what was measured in the sewer. So we found it tracks pretty close, you have nothing too significant, yeah, so this just kind of informed our, if you go to the next slide. So just informed kind of the infiltration and inflow, so. We kind of decided that, it wasn't significant, there was a little bit occurring. So for infiltration, we estimate about 5 to 7 GPM, and we kind of used some literature to help, justify that. And then same with inflow, we estimate about 320 GPM, at its peak, and that kind of matches the graphs earlier. And again, we kind of use literature to justify that, but this was just kind of an internal exercise to check to see if the hydraulic capacity would be sufficient for existing and future demands of the sewer system. So kind of, oh, I already talked about it. It can generally support existing and future demands, with adequate hydraulic capacity. We did identify a couple of deficiencies, but that wasn't based on hydraulic limitations. That was more on, the conditions of the, pipelines. Go to the next one. So we did two things. We developed a model, looks great. And then we got videos from sewer videos from Conwood Improvement District, I believe. And then we watched all of the videos and we came up with a rating score to kind of see. Let me tell you, it's a really good time. And we came up with a rating score for each of the segments of pipe to kind of see what their condition was. So we used a combination of the NASCO scores, and then also I found LA County Public Works kind of has a cool condition assessment program. So we kind of use those combination of those two. So I have the two tables. So, 5 is bad, 1 is okay. Or no, first number, severity, number of occurrences, and then second severity, number of occurrences. So 1 is good, 5 is bad. So just keep that in mind. So we did two things. We looked at the structural rating, so like if you needed to replace it now, and that's kind of what that shows there. So red is bad. So we found a couple pipelines, especially across that parking lot you see there right in the middle. There's quite a big sag. I think every year it gets a little lower. And so in our model, we kind of plugged in those new elevations based on the sag, and that's where we were seeing water would get stuck here. And it was going downhill until it reached a certain capacity.
Yeah, what happens in a sag is you've got oils and greases.
Yeah.
That like to settle out and then congeal, settle up in there.
Yeah.
Plus sediment. And so that's the problem with the sag is you have to do continual maintenance to keep it clear.
And in the video, they drive that little car with the camera, and you can see it's going, and then it goes down, and then it goes underwater, and then eventually it comes back out.
Yellow submarine.
Yeah. So and then we did a maintenance, if you go to the next one. This is just general condition, if it's clean, if it's dirty. So areas near the sags, or where your pipes are collecting a lot of water, you have a lot more wear and tear on the pipes, a little dirtier. But generally, it's pretty good. So just things to keep in mind.
You're saying that's generally good?
Yeah, you're generally good except for those red
Oh,
segments.
Well, I mean, you got a lot of red in there, I mean.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So,
Also, it doesn't necessarily imply that there's like buildup from here to here.
Yeah.
This means that you found some buildup on the
Yes,
segment
correct.
or.
That's correct.
Yeah, major buildup.
Yeah. Yeah, so it could have been just one little tiny segment of it or whatever it may be, but it does highlight the entire pipe segment altogether.
And Chris, remind me, you do have a maintenance program for the sewer. I can't recall what's the frequency that you.
We TV it, clean it as needed.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the fall.
So these were the main recommendations, these pipelines here. So increasing capacity from Grizzly down. And then there's that green one across the parking lot, and then there's a little bit of blue that another sag. The elevation is just a little different towards the end there, between the two access holes. And again, here's another cost estimate. Not as much as the drinking water system, but keep in mind that minus 50% plus 100%. I believe.
So 5 total projects.
5 projects. I believe that should be everything.
And those 5 don't include servicing the 3 homes that are on septic.
Correct.
Was there a cost estimate for that project?
It's in there. It's in there. Yeah. I think we put that in the appendix, didn't we?
I remember it was quite a
I
bit.
think it was 813.
And it's, it's maybe obsolete given, what else is occurring in the potential future corridor, I guess. There's pipe getting closer.
Right.
And, we'll talk about another future project later in the week, so. And so can I ask a question about these? So these are for open cut replacements, so like dig a big trench, pull out, put new in. And there are alternatives
Yes,
for pipeline work.
there are trenchless methods that can be done if surface challenges create, where they suggest, but often open cut is usually the lowest cost method.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Better than slip lining.
No, if you can slip line and that solves the problem, then that's a great approach. Yeah.
Like
Is that like a-
tissue form,
But
but
with these projects, we're not talking about slip lining because we've
Especially
got,
that
we've got geometry here that needs to be corrected.
Right, for these projects, but maybe for other pipeline
Yeah.
replacement, okay.
Yeah. What Chris, as you suggested, not pipe bursting, trenchless methods are, we're doing one right now for Salt Lake City. Where we've got a lot of surface improvements that we don't want to disrupt. And so it really made sense and they do with HDPE, high density polyethylene pipe. And they put a head down and they just hydraulically push it through the ground into a receiving pit at the end where you end, so very cool.
Well, that's what's nice, the big output is the model, now you can see if we reduce the diameter of a pipe with silicone or whatever it is, you can actually see how that impacts the entire system. So it's nice, more like a living document now.
Now, do you have a phasing plan for this? I mean, what's your plan first?
Yeah, we put a prioritization on it. didn't we?
Yeah,
So I believe that how they're ordered here is how the priorities, so.
I see.
Yeah, we do have a table that actually has the years recommended.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot more
page
detail.
147 of our pack. It's not-
And I'll also just offer that, we didn't put as fine a point as I would have preferred, on our existing conditions data and like some feedback from stakeholders, was sort of incomplete, so these guys have done what they could with the information we gave them, but Steve McIntosh is not sure that we need to replace the Grizzly pipes because, and what he says is that do we have video for the Grizzly pipes?
I don't think.
Steve had some seemingly rational argument for why those pipes might not need to be replaced, but again, we couldn't come up with any proof of that, so.
It's undersized.
I think there was elevation differences, it's always been a little.
Okay.
We don't always TV the Grizzly, the first part of the pipe because of several reasons. I mean, we do TV it, and TV just needs its specs, but it's really steep, and anyway.
And, they're relatively new compared to the others, just 2001, and so it's bad.
Well, and also there's two types of replacement, right? There's spot replacement where we have a problem, and then there's the notion that maybe we should have a sinking fund to address long-term replacement of the pipe over time, and that's really all of that, what we've done.
SS3, I think, is most of the pipe above the summer road, or maybe even above catch up. I'm not mistaken.
SS3.
Just the 3A, B, and C.
Oh boy, Steve, gotcha.
Yeah, that might be an exception, but the other projects are really replacing pipe from one manhole to another.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this is everything.
Very more science after this.
Yeah, so.
As I say, I think you've done a very thorough job. This is not my business. I mean, this is my area of expertise, but it's easy to understand and seems very comprehensive.
Thank
Do you have anything to say about it?
No, like I said, we've incorporated the capital improvements into our capital projects plan, our 10-year capital projects outlook. I think we assume we'll do them every other year. I think it is important to recognize that these are planning level cost estimates, so they could be what is it, 50% less or 100% more?
Yeah.
It's interesting, I mean, I think your initial estimate on the across the water line was like $900,000 or something like that, and that's gonna come in, well. We hope it's gonna come in at about 650, but the estimate you have in the final plans is 680, I think, so. Anyway, I think they have a way of reconciling
Yeah, it
those, as you know, as many things do as they get more final. So I think. You know, the big questions on water and sewer, I mean, I think, you know, how we resolve this known and very problematic deficiency in our storage. Is, and we don't have that prioritized in the capital projects plan, partially because it's really expensive and partially because. We are hoping that somebody else is gonna help us improve that, but as we just discussed, they're not proposing enough storage to resolve the deficiency, so.
No, but they're coming close. I mean, they're,
It'll be an important piece.
yeah,
One,
exactly.
well, 180 out of 500,000.
Oh. I thought it was 180.
Well,
but
they're recommending 500,000 to provide for emergency storage, so it's, so 180 is closer to. The fire flow deficiency, the
Yeah,
fire
all
storage.
right, that's what I was thinking.
Fair.
Which is
Fair.
300,
Yes,
right, so
Right, so it's pretty
180
close.
would be more than half of the fire flow deficiency would be made up by that tank.
Right.
Can I ask you a question about, look at the West Grizzly sewer extension, I guess I misread it the other day, I said I thought that the number was now 253, but that's only for the install.
that is the study that was done by the homeowners like. Years ago,
Oh, that was,
several, well,
this is.
several years ago,
Yeah.
so.
And this totals the 858. Is this the one up to your house?
Yeah,
And 858 is still the right number with you,
it's their planning level cost estimate,
but
and
the pipe got considerably closer this year with it now being at the new storage building.
it got across the parking lot, which took some doing. And yeah, you know, there may be a sewer extended to a restroom very nearby, a trailhead restroom. Which we
I'll talk
kind
about
of
that later.
previewed in the.
Yeah, that'd be a great place for a trailhead restroom, I think.
Yeah.
You got it.
Get it closer.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question about the Schwanz estate, or is it, should I not?
be careful.
Okay, so I'm all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
I'll see you outside.
gentlemen, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate the opportunity.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Glad it's some.
I hope, Chris has your phone number.
And sorry, I think what I started to say before I. Thought I should highlight the storage, the need for additional storage is that. The big topic of conversation on utilities is how they get paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how quickly they get paid for. So. You know, that's where topics like what are alternatives to open cut come into play, but it's helpful to be reminded that we've got a couple segments that really need to be replaced, so. The
Yeah,
entirety of them, so.
opens that may be the lowest cost method, but if you've got environmental concerns
Yeah.
that control the surface, that could change the conversation.
One of the, just dovetailing onto that a little bit, one, as I look at the funding. Plan or agenda. I keep coming to the conclusion that I think it's too short. And that trying to do it over 5 to 7 years is one of the things that's making it so daunting. And that if we made the horizon 10 to 12 years. The funding options would more readily include just charging a little more as we go along and saving for the money.
Yeah.
Maybe not having to use external financing. I think if we're gonna really do it in 5 years, it's gonna be dependent on external financing. And so I see a lot of advantage in it not being dependent on external financing. Any comment on adopting a 10 or 12 year horizon versus a shorter horizon?
For these known
Yeah.
specific projects.
I think as long as you understand the risks that those deficiencies create. So you can acknowledge them through your operations and maintenance. And know that they're kind of gonna continue to be problem children until you fix it. Just know that's the case. You could stretch it out further.
well, and you prioritize this, so that helps a lot.
Yes. Right. But just know there's risk behind every decision you make. And so it's balancing that risk, right, and optimizing that time to spend the money.
Right.
You're familiar with SRF funding, the state
revolving loan.
revolving fund?
We've.
They offer very low interest loans. And sometimes even some grant dollars come into play.
Isn't that changing though? Is it not the case the state is proposing, there's potentially a bill coming out this session to create a statewide water use fee? So everybody connected to a well drinking water system will pay a fee to the state and then they will use that to essentially support the state.
Very
Because the
controversial.
SRF, or yes, very controversial,
Right.
obviously, right? Like,
But what they're trying to do there is they're trying to follow the UDOT model for roads. And have a way to generate funds for statewide projects, because water doesn't have that.
right.
And so that's the thinking behind
So
this
you
bill,
for
but
what?
it is controversial.
Yeah, so anyway, I just. Right, I mean, there's that financing, there's grants.
Yeah.
If there's a way to do projects faster or in conjunction with one another. Where the cost of borrowing is cheaper than inflation. We could think of it, but.
Literally doing it faster would be better. I mean, it'd be great to check the box and have it all done. But, you know, I think you gotta balance that with being pragmatic about the funding.
100%, yeah.
I'm reminded from time to time of Mark Twain's famous quote. Like whiskey's for fighting and no, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. Well, thank you very much, Jim. I think there's no further issues, questions. Thank you for weeks. We'll call a work session. Close.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
It's really useful.
We need a motion.
Oh, do we?
Well, if you're gonna close them.
Okay.
This was the only thing on the agenda though.
Yes.
I came prepared in case this concluded early to talk about facilities. You know, we really could just take a break instead because
Yeah, let's
there's
take
nothing
that break.
urgent on the agendas. That's it.
I want you to stand up.
Do we still have to close this?
Oh.
Sure.
Move that we close this work session.
I second that we close this work session.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Elise. I heard you loud and clear. Appreciate it. Woo!
Alright.
Can I ask you a question on this?
Very interesting.
So the.
Yeah. Great. It's really great, work on this.
We had a lot of fun, so good. Yeah.
Well, we're on that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, very much. It's a struggle. It was beautiful skiing.
Stop it.
There was, I remember when I first started skiing here, it was Amy's drawing. You ski, it was like one of my favorite skiers on the mountain, kind of like saying, and how it did, or Andy Gardner. Okay, I'd like to call to order the town council meeting of December 10th, 2025. 1 minute after 4. And we will have a public hearing on comment regarding the adoption of the 2006 Utah WUI Code. Designation of the WUI boundary and amendment to Title 8 and 9 and to adopt the WUI Code to allow for defensible states. So, would anybody like to address us in that public hearing? Yes.
Hi, I'm Dill Draper, cabin owner up in Albion Basin. As I look at this law, I think there's really both a carrot and stick component to it. On the carrot side, it's urging people to make their structures more safe from fire danger. And we've been doing this for quite a few years. I had the Unified Fire up about 4 years ago, and they said, well, you need smaller grates on your crawl space, and I cut down these low branches on the bottom 6 feet of every pine tree, so there's not a ladder for the fire. And we've also, with Chris's help, coordinated chipper days for 3 years in a row. And probably, I mean, we had about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a windstorm, brought down about 20 trees on the roughly 20 acres that makes up the Secret Lake subdivision. We had a pile of trees 4 feet high and 150 yards long and chipped. We've really, and they've come back for the last 2 years, we've had chipper days out there. So the only point is, homeowners are already doing a lot of things, to try and make their places a little bit safer. On the stick side of this law, basically, at some point in time, you're gonna classify, you can make some sort of risk assessment and say, well, this house with the metal roof and no bushes around it is a safer house than this house over here with the wood shingle roof and all kinds of garbage stacked around it. And I just urge you to be really careful how you make those assessments, because what's gonna happen is that the insurance companies will probably take your lead, and whether they continue to insure properties or not insure properties may be based on the assessment you make. So I'm just saying, I mean, there's already, you read about California and a lot of insurance companies pulling out or dropping people. Anecdotally up here, Ferguson's down the bypass road, were dropped by Chubb, surprisingly. I've had neighbors that have had a problem with insurance companies, and the rates have either gone up dramatically or they've actually had to shop around and try and find different companies. So I just would caution you as you think about implementing any sort of risk assessment, both Alta-wide, impacting the lodges, impacting the homes. You keep in mind that there's an insurance implication to that. My last point is, I think there are also other things that Alta could do to help reduce risk. Pacific Core, a lot of their fires were started by electric wires, and they've been in billions in lawsuits throughout their district, which includes Utah. And I'd like to see some of the power lines up in Albion Basin buried. If there's any way that Alta can help advance that cause with Pacific Core, that would be a good thing. Pacific Core has buried power lines in the last 2 years in Milkman Canyon and Big Cottonwood Canyon. And I called to see if they had a list about what's the priority. I could get nowhere with them. But I would imagine squeaky wheel principle applies, and if we're making noise about trying to get the lines buried up here, I think that could also help reduce fire risk. One other idea I've had is that within 20 feet of the corner of our subdivision, there's a line for snowmaking. Is there some way to hook a fire hydrant up to that? I know that Alta Ski Lifts is not in the business of providing fire lifts, but if that thing is sitting there full of water, is there some way that could also reduce risk for cabin owners? So my points, well, I'll just end there. Thank you very much.
Interesting idea,
Very thoughtful.
yeah.
Good.
Okay, Mark, do you wanna make a comment on this?
public hearing?
Yes,
No.
all right. All right, any other public persons on this topic, the WUI code?
Margaret Burke, I won't repeat anything that was already said and covered by Dell. The only comment I had was specifically the language in section 933. Documentation submitted, there was nothing about the documentation had to be submitted prior to the removal and replacement. I would suggest that putting in prior might be a good addition.
Do you know what she's talking about?
Yeah, they just talk about the change.
It's
in
the highlighted yellow.
The highlighted, yep.
Okay, so, all right,
Yeah, you have.
yeah, okay,
And then, oh, I guess we want to.
yeah. Any other public comments on this item, which is item 2? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And we'll go to discussion of possible action to adopt the 2024 0-4. Adopting the 2006 Utah Wildlands Urban Interface Code designation of a WUI boundary and amendments to titles 8 and 9 to adopt the WUI code and allow for defensible space. And we'll start that with citizen input.
Did I speak at the wrong time? This is what I should
I'm sorry, I was focused on.
It's just 3 or the
You're on
agenda,
3.
that's after that.
We're on 3s. Well, actually, we're gone before citizen input.
No,
You-
you have to go back to 3. So we did a
Okay.
public hearing on the WUI code and now the council shall discuss and possibly act. on the WUI
Okay,
code.
all right, got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
And then we'll go to citizen input on
Okay.
any other really.
all right. Discussion on possible action between the 4 of us. Elise is out there in Zoom land.
And do you want just a brief introduction to this or
Yes.
me to do that or?
Well, we've been discussing for a couple of planning commission meetings, I discussed it last month, and we have to adopt the Wildland Urban Interface Code. We have to designate a WUI boundary. The Wildland Urban Interface Code is adopted into Title IX, it's just another component of the building code, more or less, that's applied by the fire marshal in a plan review. And we are somewhat electively making a couple of other changes to our vegetation management ordinance, where there's sort of long been this conflict between our tree removal regulations and defensible space provisions. So the idea here was, rather than getting into a sort of a whole, a broader update to the vegetation management program, I'm just creating an exception for defensible space. And another, it's worth pointing, I think we discussed it that much last time, that the mayor approved tree removal under the tree removal ordinance in the past, and I'm supposed to make that a building official's duty. It's sort of a vestige of old Alta. And so anyways, in the last meeting, I think John provided some really insightful or incisive feedback about the sort of disproportionate burden created by this requirement to create a site plan, just to have a tree cut down that someone's telling you have to cut down to get your plan approved, or to get your insurance premium within range, or to comply with the assessment that the county or the fire department or the state is going to do on your property. So
Well, I thought the changes you made, and in exempting the trees removed pursuant to WUI is great, really addresses the issue. And I thought it was fair and equitable. I'll tell you, the thing that still confuses me about this, is the use of the word building official. Like, every time it says building official, I think Kurt, I think our building official.
right.
But really, in this context, it's the fire marshal.
In the application of the WUI code, but in the tree removal, I mean, people remove trees for all kinds of reasons, and so You just need to remove a tree to build your house, or
That'll go to our normal building
it's
official.
part of the site plan approval, part of the building permit application approval process.
But specifically in F, including their proximity to property, is submitted and approved by the building official. This is the edit, this is the edit.
Yes,
So the building official in that case, isn't that the fire marshal?
I think that the fire marshal is telling the building official, or telling the homeowner to cut out a tree, and the homeowner saying, here, this is what the fire marshal said, building official, the building official says, okay.
And so then it is back to our normal building official
Yeah,
in that
In that
case.
scenario.
yes.
Yeah, it's a little
That's a really
tricky
catch
because
that.
some of it, we're using building official to mean the fire marshal. Cause he's ultimately the guy that's really empowered by the code.
Except I just don't think there. Maybe Cameron could help. What I was going to say, whether or not it's correct, is that we don't refer to any other code official with respect to the Wild and Urban Interface Code in our code. So the only references to a code official who is not the town of Alta building official in Title IX is the building official. So there are code officials in a number of different areas. I think it's just something that, you know, is the case.
Yeah, I was actually embarrassed after the last meeting because you the next day said, oh, well, you know, the code official is the fire marshal
In the WUI code.
in the WUI code.
Yes, so that.
But in our code, it's not that way.
Right, because the WUI code, the fire code and the WUI code are, it's just, it flows up into the approval. Basically, so you get input from all these other reviewers, such as the fire marshal, and that flows up to the permit. Which is, you know, as the building official.
For new construction.
Or remodels, anything triggering the building code, you know, but and is the fire code or the WUI code gonna come into play if it's an interior remodel? Not the WUI code, you know, at the very least, so.
Yeah, I feel better about being so thoroughly confused last time. I'm confused again. You know, it's tricky, I've tried to get my arms around this code a couple of times now, and I'm not getting it, so I'm gonna let go. But you know, it's so empowering for the building, the WUI code is so empowering for what I think is the fire marshal. I mean, it just basically makes him the WUI guy, and he can appeal, but you can't really appeal. You can appeal, but you can't expect it to change, you know, I mean, the appeal process is extremely limited. And that's the fire marshal, not the guy that's working for you directly. And I think that was the difference to me, is one of them is somebody that you have a lot of influence over, and you know, they're working as a town employee. And then the fire marshal is really fully independent, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I will, not to speak for UFA, but it's quite collaborative. And I think that's the case between fire districts and municipal code of, you know, municipal building officials and building departments and permitting folks. It must, yes.
I think the rubber's gonna meet the road when we get to the actual assessment process, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyway, I very much support the change you made, and I think we should move to pass this as proposed.
Now, one of our other public speakers had a phrase prior to.
My understanding of the comment made by Margaret Burke was, she wanted to make sure that the language was clear, that you had to that you couldn't cut the tree down and then submit paperwork afterwards, but this says submitted and approved by the building official, so. I'm not a lawyer, but submitted and approved by the building official means that you have to me, submit that before you go remove the tree. And if you don't do that, right, if you don't do that, you're in violation of this. So, but you are a lawyer, I'm not. So.
But
If
I'm
we-
not your lawyer.
What?
But I'm not your lawyer.
No. So,
Our lawyer does
Karen-
want to say something.
Cameron, are you, I can't see you, but are you available to comment on whether this
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, I think I can clarify. So the WUI code is confusing in a way on purpose because it's broad, because it has to cover very small municipalities and very large municipalities and counties. So the WUI code itself does not define who the code official is. In the definitions under WUI, the code official is whoever the municipality designates. So it can be the fire marshal. It also could be the mayor, the building official, the town manager, whatever we decide. So that's the short answer is you can designate whoever you want to be the code official for purposes of the WUI code. Separately, as far as the yellow highlighted language, it really only allows the property owner to avoid the revegetation portion of our code if they provide the documentation and get approval. Otherwise, the WUI code still applies and our vegetation code applies. I don't know if that clarified, but hopefully it helped.
Are you okay with that?
I am,
Okay. Carolyn, you okay with it?
yes.
Elise.
Elise, are you?
I'm good. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay.
And I was worried because this is the only time to do it, Chris.
Yeah, we're on
Unless you
another
want
time.
to schedule a special.
December 24th.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we've had the,
We need a motion and a second, and then I'll roll call.
all right,
I think I motioned that we pass this as presented.
all right,
I can second it.
okay. All right, so move and second, we adopt the 2025-04. WUI.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
Councilmember Byrne,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
and Mayor Burke.
Yes,
Motion passes.
motion passed.
Do we need to do something different for the other land use changes? Or
No, we don't.
they're included in those?
No, we done those last time. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to citizen input for the general meeting.
And it saved us a hassle this meeting, right? Because we didn't have to put a notice in the newspaper.
Right, right away,
Yeah.
it's paying benefit.
Yes, all right. Okay, citizen input. Would any citizens like to address us? Mark.
Mark Hague. Leave it the last meeting, Ms. Morgan, expressed the notion that, she had a lot of confidence in, some of the experts that Salt Lakes, or that the town of Alta has surrounded themselves with and employed in their analysis of various things. And, say, well, there's no shortage of experts in this town. But I would note that over the long haul, both elected officials and their political appointees have essentially ignored those experts' actions and opinions and utterances. I would point to two things. In the recent discussion here today, Mr. Cawley cites the number as 265,000 gallons a day for the amount of water available to the municipality. I would point out that Mr. Kapelowski and VC, before the state engineer, had a much bigger number than that. Mr. Kapelowski and Mr. VC were not representing anyone's quote unquote jurisdictional partners. They were representing this municipality, period. And so it would seem that I think could just ask Mr. Kapelowski to come in and explain why his number is so different from Mr. Cawley's. Gotta be an explanation for that, and that was a public hearing, and I believe it was presumed to be sworn before the state engineer.
And there's gotta be a credible explanation for those differences. The other one that I would note is also Mr. Kapelowski. And for those who are unaware, Mr. Kapelowski had a very, very long career here as the special counsel for water. Whether he is not or is not still retained, I don't presently know. The last time I was aware he was still retained was, I believe, the Sondak administration, where I'm aware that he appeared at some meetings with Mayor Sondak. But I would note, given that the council is looking at the capital improvements projects, and the possibility exists that they're gonna go to the debt markets to potentially pay for all or a portion of it. I would point to Mr. Kapelowski's opinion to the bond council, and I think the town of Alta, the council should review that correspondence. And essentially, the creditors wanted a representation of what assets were being pledged. And Mr. Kapelowski proffered one letter, and basically the bond council wrote back and said, you have to do better than that because we can't lend on an ambiguous statement like that. And Mr. Kapelowski rewrote it to the effect that the town of Alta controls the water. Now, those aren't my opinions, those are your council's opinions. And if Ms. Clancy cannot locate the documents, I can provide them to you as I obtained them from the town of Alta originally. Thank you very much.
Okay, other?
Margaret Burke. I have two comments. The first one is short in comment, but will require a lot of work, and that is that I encourage the town to, as a body, as well as individuals, to comment on the Big Cottonwood Canyon environmental assessment that just came out. It's stated in the environmental assessment that what happens in Big Cottonwood affects Little Cottonwood. That should be grounds enough for you to take action on it. And I would encourage you to probably ask for an extension, as the deadline to comment is January 9 as to the Forest Service and January 12 as to UDOT, which puts a tremendous burden on everybody during the holiday period when we're all busy with family and friends. The second thing is, and this is maybe of equal, if not greater importance, and that is to thank the current staff, those that are leaving the staff, Craig Highmark as treasurer, and John Byrne, elected official, leaving the town council. I feel that your leadership, as well as the other council members that have been involved, including those that are continuing their service, have led to tremendous guidance and leadership and understanding on the part of the citizenry that I feel we didn't have before you had your service. And that it's important that while we don't have everything under control, we at least have a much better understanding of where we need to be, what needs to be done to get us there, and potentially on the road to what the costs would be to achieve that. So again, thank you, John, for your service. Best wishes for your good health. And Carolyn, thank you for your service and continuing to serve on the council. And Craig, thank you for your service as treasurer, and we look forward to seeing you on the council.
Thank you, Margaret. Yes. Was somebody going to apply?
I know, I want to.
Would like to echo Margaret's comments, to be aware of the Big Cottonwood Transportation Plan. And I'm sure you know the basic facts. It's kind of shocking that the plan they came up with, Big Cottonwood, And the way they're able to solve traffic over there is a fraction of the cost of what they proposed for Little Cottonwood. There's a couple of places where their plan does impact Little Cottonwood, specifically tolling. They're talking about putting tolling in Big Cottonwood, and they note right in the document that this may drive people over to Little Cottonwood, and so there's some linkage there on tolling if you toll one place, not the other. The other is the parking structure to be built down in the gravel pit. And I'm a little confused on that, but it is in the EIS, it talks about using that parking structure for bus traffic coming up Little Cottonwood. I don't know if that's only in that interim phase 2 or if that's long term, but they do talk about using that same structure. And then one other contrast is it appears they're able to do this over in Big Cottonwood just with an environmental assessment as opposed to an EIS that we did over here. I don't know where that will end up, but Margaret is right. It is a very short comment period. There may be method to UDOT's madness to do this over the Christmas holidays and hope nobody comments, but just please be aware of that. And there may be a role for Town of Alta to comment on the Big Cottonwood plan. Thank you.
Are we allowed to engage with the public? Or we're not supposed to ask?
For clarification, of course.
Okay, the tolling, do either of you know, where they thought they were gonna put that in Big Cottonwood Canyon? Because they said that if we were gonna toll Little Cottonwood Canyon, doesn't matter what your opinion is on it, but this guy came and told us that they would have to put the toll booth like right at Red Pine and do the turnaround there, and I was like, that's nuts. So is Big Cottonwood Canyon proposing to do it at the entry, or are they proposing to do it part way up, or do they know?
So what I read in the environmental assessment is similar to the plan for Little Cottonwood, is it would be just prior to Solitude Entry 1.
So the tolling would go right up to the resort.
It's not a booth that you stop at.
No, I know, but it's just a curious thing, and I know it impacts like the ski resorts and impacts all of it, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. It's such a big difference. It's like somebody else wrote the comments.
Because there would be no toll at the other locations down Canyon in Big Cottonwood where there are bus stops for Spruce Campground and other places.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? In case we'll close that element of the agenda and go to the audit.
So we have Ron Stewart is here with us. So Gilbert and Stewart is the firm that we put out an RFP this summer and awarded it to Gilbert and Stewart to do our financial audit. They're our third party. We are required to do annual audits here at the town, but again, just, it is one of those things that I in my role really enjoy participating in this process for the transparency, the accountability, and presentation on this. So I think Ron, are you connected with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear.
Perfect.
So Ron and his team, he's got a team of people, but Ron and Jason came up to our office, and I guess I'll just let Ron say what he'd like to say to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be here and be here electronically. I really appreciate that. We were contracted to do the audit for your town this year. What I'd like to do is just really quickly go through what we do as auditors, the conclusions that we came to and how we came to those conclusions. So there's really 3 areas that we look out for your town. We want to make sure the financial statements meet accounting standards, that they're materially correct and those numbers can be relied upon. The second thing we want to do is make sure that internal controls have been designed, implemented, and are effectively working. And the third thing is we want to make sure that we're in compliance with state law based on the areas that we looked at during this fiscal year. So what we did for the financial statements is we took the trial balance or the books of the city, and we performed a number of tests on those balances. Those tests included sending confirmations out to third parties, in particular for cash, taxes, debt, and other areas that we wanted to send out those confirmations to, so that we could verify that the balances that we show on our books match what they have on theirs. We also look at a number of invoices. We'll pull a sample of invoices at the beginning of the audit as we come out. We want to look to see that the invoice matches the check, that it's posted to the right jail account in the right period. And that the other controls that we have in place are being followed. We also look at invoices after the end of the year. So we'll pull a sample of those, and we want to make sure that the expense hits the appropriate period. So if something happened in June, but we didn't pay for it in July, we want to make sure that expense is properly accrued into June when the expense actually was incurred. We also look at invoices for capital assets and various other things as we're going through our processes. There's a number of calculations on a financial statement, so we go through and recalculate those balances to make sure that they meet accounting standards. And for instance, accrued payroll, depreciation expense, compensated absences, accrued interest, pension allocations all have calculations, and we want to make sure that those are appropriate. And so we'll go back and view and test those. We also do a lot of analytical reviews. We'll look at this year compared to last year. We want to make sure that we can understand the big differences that happen within your town during the year. So we'll do that. We'll do that at the beginning of the audit, and we'll get with city staff and say, hey, tell us what happened here. As we're actually testing balances as well, we'll do that again. And then when the financial statements are written, we'll go back and review that a third time to make sure that we can understand the differences on a high level. So that's kind of a quick review of what we do on the financial statement side. There's a number of other tests that we perform to make sure that we can come to an opinion that the financial statements are materially correct. So if you look at our independent auditor's report, which is a couple pages into that document, it says on the second paragraph, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Alta as of June 30th, 2025, and the respective changes in financial position and cash flows where applicable. Excuse me. Thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That's considered an unmodified opinion, a clean opinion, or the best opinion that you can receive. So, in short, through all of our testing and evaluations, we feel like those financial statements are meeting accounting standards and can be relied upon. The second thing we look at is internal controls. We don't give an opinion on controls, but do evaluate those controls to make sure, like I said before, that they're designed, that they're implemented, and that they're working. If there was a portion of your town that just there were no controls in place, or those controls had one time been in place but just are not working properly, that would be considered a finding that we would bring to your attention and let you know there's some work to be done. We come to that conclusion through interviews, walkthroughs, questionnaires, to kind of get a sense of what your controls are and how those controls are working. So we'll take a sample of a disbursement and walk it through the whole process from the point of origin to the financial statements and see that those controls are being followed. We can do that also for receipts and payroll, the major parts of your town that are showing money coming in and out. So through our testing evaluations, we found that the city or the town controls are designed effectively and they are working. And so the assets are being protected of the town. So there's no issues or findings that we need to bring to your attention. The third thing we look at is the state compliance. So the state auditor gives us certain procedures to perform each year. Some of those are annually, some of those kind of on a rotating basis. This year we looked at budgetary compliance, fund balance, fraud risk assessment, restricted taxes and related revenues, government fees, impact fees, and enterprise fund transfers. So we go through those procedures that they prescribe for us and evaluate those areas. Through our testing and evaluation this year, there was one issue or one finding that we needed to bring to your attention. In the, I think it's in the capital projects fund, we overspent our budget. So the state law says that you can't spend more than what you're budgeting for. So we're just recommending that as you do your amended budget at the end of the year, that you evaluate those and make sure that you've got enough budget to cover your expenses. So that's really kind of a quick review of what we did, our conclusions and how we came to those conclusions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Does the council want me to explain that finding in any detail?
You can run through that again.
I think it's pretty simple. Basically what happened is when we were purchasing Our Lady of the Snows, we budgeted for that in FY 26, but we wrote the check on June 30th. Like that, we came into ownership, the contract was effective on June 30th, so we were off by like 20. We should have planned for it in 25, not 26. And so, yes, and so that's what this is for, and it,
Right, we should put it in 25.
we should have put it
budget
in
amendment.
25.
Change your contract by day, that's
Yeah, so anyway, so that's that, and we knew that was coming. I think Steve had,
You mentioned it.
when Steve was preparing the financial statement, he had identified that, and we briefed the council, I think in September on that.
I have a question about the capital fund transfer of 988. You know, in the past, that has been really the excess revenue over expenses from the general fund. But this year it was different. This year was really general fund balance for OLS, or did we really have a positive result of 988? Incredible, so it just really turned around at the end, because at one point the year looked like we were gonna have a negative result of maybe 300 grand. And then it turned around to, we had a positive 988,000 revenue over expenses.
The
That's
number was
incredible.
very similar to the purchase.
Right.
But independent.
But independent, so it really was still the same methodology. And I noticed most of the savings was in the marshal's office, because I guess we didn't bring on the next person, so that was 400 grand, and then and then about 300 grand of additional revenue, and then some other miscellaneous things.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really fortuitous. That's great. Great job, staff.
The other thing, you answered all my questions, Jim, in email, so thanks for that. But the one thing you didn't address was the 69,000, roughly $70,000 savings in contributions. Was that?
Do you know what's in this line item? Do you recall?
Yeah, on page 45 here.
Yeah, we've got it up in front of us. I have notes on everything besides that one.
I don't.
That's good. No, that's good. That's good.
So I guess while Ron is still on, was there any questions about the audit report?
Yeah, and then, we can talk about some of the numbers.
What percentage of the expenditures did you actually, confirm and statistically test, Ron? Do you know off the top of your head?
During the current year, we pulled at least a sample of 60 invoices. And then with additional invoices for fixed assets and other things, it was significant. There isn't a percentage per se. It's the accounting standard says the maximum is a sample of 60. And then we pulled additional for other areas that we wanted to look at.
Okay, I had a question too, which is, do you have an acceptable error rate?
There is materiality. And so as we begin the audit, we do go through and evaluate the materiality of it. I don't have that right at the tip of my fingers, but yeah, there is a materiality level that accounting standard meets. And we evaluate that and see that we're underneath that materiality.
I don't know if that answers the question or not.
So
You need to get around it.
So there is a limit that we look at and say if there's a difference that's below this materiality level, then we don't necessarily propose an audit adjustment for that. And that's something that's evaluated according to accounting standards every year.
It's basically like your statistical margin of error. If you go back to your high school, college days, your statistics class, you've got those little fins out on the side, your standard deviation. That's kind of the equivalent of what your materiality is. If there's something really small, then you can ignore that or
Okay.
not.
The answers to the distribution. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just say something positive about the audit. Page 40, I love the simplicity of footnote 7. Which just really makes it clear what happened in the water fund and also the capital projects fund. But then pages 45 and 46 are probably the joy of the audit, because you get this really simple summary of what happened in the general fund this year. And I know that there's a bunch of rules about what the monthly presentation should look like, but this is what I'm always trying to get to each month when I'm reviewing is this, like make the fund balance tie out to the previous fund balance. And I just love this footnote, and I think it's super clear, and you can really understand what happened last year, and that's great. And I noticed you made some adjustments on the repost, and some of them were pretty significant, like $2 million difference, and I'm like, well, I've been beating my head against the wall for a while trying to figure out where that $2 million came from.
I
But
just,
really
it was a
wasn't there.
positive negative on that was the positive negative on the transfer.
The
That's-
988.
Yeah, that's exactly what that was, cause I was like, Steve, we must have to do, this is crazy, why is this number $2 billion?
Yeah, so, I guess we've talked a little about this, I think there's those of us who, love looking at the numbers, is it possible to have your input on this stuff more than just annually? Would that change it? I mean, cause like, we're getting this clarity now and it's great, but it's 6 months after the fact, right? I mean, we're talking about the June 30th financial, and I'm saying, wow, this is great news. This 988, it's great news. We've made countless decisions since June about our finances in the future without knowing really that we had an incredibly robust year last year. We made and some of them want to say that.
Yeah.
But it's really, I mean, we had sort of surprise million, it's really a little more. We actually thought for a while it was gonna be minus 300 and it was positive 988.
And then we had the
I just think that would be good to know.
Not taxing the homeowners and,
Yeah,
so we were just trying to
yeah.
even things out, John, we just didn't know.
Right, and of course, those are in the next fiscal year, so that'll be next summer or next fall, we'll be dealing with it.
Well, that's a good question, which is increase the frequency of these accounts.
Certainly can. The part of the difficulty that goes into the year-end reconciliation process is there's a 2-month delay from when the county sends us the sales and property tax information. So, and those numbers are pretty significant. So in order to know what those are, you're gonna be at least 60 days past whatever quarterly or monthly deadline you wanna look at, which at that point, the information's old and who cares, right? We could do estimates and say, well, this is historically what it's been, so let's throw on a receivable there and then true it up. That is an option. The typical way that a lot of governments operate is we basically run on a more or less cash basis during the year, because that's generally what people care about. What money came into our account, what money did we spend? And then at year end, we're really truing things up for the full GAAP accrual stuff because we're required to. And for most individuals, that accrual accounting is not very helpful for decision making.
No,
And so that's why it's a balance on what you want to do. If you want the information that takes some time, we can make some estimates.
Well, it's the 60 days plus then the audit process too, so that's how we get out to this, this is really 6 months, it's really 170 days. And that's where I just think there's gotta be some way to have a better understanding of how our fiscal year is going and how last year went. Because like the general fund balance we've been using was off by a couple $1 million. So there's gotta be a way to shorten that or tighten that up a little. I don't know, I would support tightening it up. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, and having formal forecasts, which is what you're talking about, what you say, put some estimates in and stuff like that, cause I was convinced that there was an error in here because the number was so much more positive than I expected. And particularly when we're about to approach the citizens about increasing taxes, I wanna be way on top of this and not 6 months behind. And so I just think, whether we do a quarterly review on this or something, but you know, let's just have some further discussions about how we can get some estimates earlier. So I think the next couple of years are gonna be when we're gonna be wrestling with the citizens over big capital improvement stuff. We really have to be on top of our numbers.
And just to be clear, I don't think either Craig or I are advocating that the audit portion.
No.
Totally, just.
Right.
Sort of your magic touch. And because it's really you that are doing the balance sheet adjustment entries.
Right, yeah.
And so I think that, you know, if we get you to look at that more frequently, that I think would help.
Sure, whatever council and management wants to do, I'm happy to look at.
Okay, any further discussions on this? You look
We,
like you
well,
want to say
we kind of have this formulated in 2 agenda items, so we had, you know, Ron's presentation, and then we had discussion of possible action approving it, and Craig had asked me a handful of questions about a certain page in the audit that I wanted to review with the full council.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure if we wanted to
Let's do it now.
relieve Ron of his duties and kind of move on to the agenda. If you don't have anything else for Ron, we can
I don't.
express our appreciation to him and his team for their work.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, and especially thank to management. We throw a lot of stuff at them really quickly, and really appreciate how quickly they get it back. And we worked a lot with Steve, and you guys are in good hands for sure. And Jen knows exactly what's going on within the town too. So grateful to be a part of it. Thanks for letting me be here.
You're here.
Thank you.
So what I'm having Molly pull up is one of the pages that John Byrne, Councilmember Byrne, excuse me, referred to earlier. That was a general fund update. And I was kind of asked to just review some of the bigger variance numbers. So on the top, the 267 for the taxes, you know,
This is page 45.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, so what we have here is we have our original budget, our final budget, you have your actual, and then you have the variance between the actual and the financial budget, just making sure everybody can read this document. And so, you know, part of the reason for the variance, or the reasons for the variance are, you know, more $250,000 roughly in more sales tax than I had anticipated, which is a good thing, but that's a big number. Also, we got
Yeah.
$8,000 in prior year property taxes that I was not expecting. That number was pretty big last year compared to previous years. And then also our fourth quarter transportation fund money was bigger than I expected. So it was just, I guess it was budgeting on my part and not anticipating bigger numbers. So that's the reason for that 267. The 69,000, Craig, is the net related to the previous year. And if you'll recall, when ACBB dissolved, they made a contribution to the town for about $75,000 but it was a one-time federal contribution. So that's what.
Yeah, but that's a variance from our final budget, so you missed that adjustment in the budget.
No, so when you had that pulled up just a second ago,
Yeah, and
so it's-
last year's number was the 198.
right, cause I remember talking about this with Ron,
129.
right?
So it may have been in the final budget amendment. We thought, well, maybe we're gonna get similar amounts as last year. and just
Right.
use last year's actual as an estimate for budget, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Alright,
And then on down in the expenditures, the 86,000 in admin, the main reasons for that were, due to unused wages, just budgeting for wages and insurance costs being lower than we anticipated. And then the 290 for the police department, the big buckets in there where we didn't hire the 5th officer until later, or until we got into FY 26. Insurance costs, we also anticipated starting the mental health grant, so and we didn't actually start that until 26. And then there were some expenses with vehicles. Our gas purchases are not perfectly always laid out, and we didn't end up having one of those last year, so those are the big things.
alright, thanks for that.
I would say though, you know. $456,000 of expense savings, you know, that's a great job and. It's of a wide variety of contributing factors, but you know, you deserve applause for. You know, generating almost 500 grand in expense savings, that's really fantastic.
For better or worse, yes, we scrape every penny and like look at every purchase and.
And I think that's the expectation that our constituents have, that's how we've always been, and so. You know, when people bring up expense management, I mean, I think this is a great thing to point to because, you know, you manufactured almost $500,000 of savings. So that's great.
Okay, I think we're probably ready to take action to approve the 2025 financial statements and audit. Are we not?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
I think I should do a roll call because
Okay,
it's
do it.
financial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
Councilmember Byrne,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
and Mayor Burke.
Yes,
Motion passes.
okay. Let's go on to Mike Vaughn. Good afternoon.
Well, we're happy to get open on Sunday. It's pizza to work, so they were running around guessing what to do. But the open we'd like to have, Mother Nature's been a little stingy, but you know, we're down to a 27-inch base now. That depends on where you are at. We gotta have fairly high winds and move things around and. We're primarily skiing on the runs around in the man-made snow. The forecast is rather bleak, there's nothing in the forecast for at least another 7 days. And also it's going to stay warm. For the period of time, so the opportunity to make snow is not looking very good either. So we're just trying to hold it together, we're scraping every snowflake we can rather than dig up. We're putting it in any spot that we find that's being beat down, we just have the Wildcat Collins and Sunnyside lifts running. Hoping to have Sugarloaf running for the weekend when we have more people, but it may only just run for a few days and then take it back offline due to the lack of coverage that we have. So with this later start, we're now about 5% behind what last year would have been. So, you know, going forward, I don't think we'll make that 5% up. And we may fall further behind as depending on what happens with conditions going forward. It's there. But thank you to the town of Alta and your staff for helping us on our projects this summer. Most of them are all buttoned up. You know, we're kind of buttoned up for the winter with the Daylight project and the storage building and the contractor that we're basing out of that for the winter. They'll be working here on days that it's Mondays through Thursdays, non-power days and non-holidays. We've given them a green light, they can bring people up and work inside the building. The rest of the time, we're gonna need the parking, we hope. That's what's gonna happen. In answer to Dale's question about snowmaking lines. Snowmaking lines actually are empty, they're not always charged. They only get charged when we run. We have talked with Unified, that sometimes if there was a fire, we could try to spin up the pumps and get them charged, but it's not a instantaneous thing. It takes a little while to charge and get them going, but that's just a FYI.
You know, if there's a fire hydrant there, maybe the rates would be better whether there's water connected to it or not.
Yes.
Picture.
Nice.
But yeah, we're just kind of working through this and hoping for some change in temperature. So, thank you.
Well, that 5%, 5% behind last year, is that it, or your average?
Well, right now, we're 5% behind the total for last year.
5% behind the total.
Yes, we just look at, you know, how shy are we, how far are we trailing the total of last year, we're 5% off right now, missing. 2 weeks, fortunately, the weeks we missed are really low volume weeks.
Yeah,
You know,
normal.
so, but
Yeah, but the weeks coming up are high volume weeks.
The busiest weeks of the season are on the horizon.
Yeah, and,
Yep, sorry.
well, I'm just wondering, if this is going to be reflected in, sales tax.
Definitely.
And when the lodges don't operate, that's big.
Yeah, that's a
And
big hit.
they're often low occupancy during the first couple of weeks, but when they postpone opening and cancel, that's a lot of revenue.
That's a big deal.
Snow heals all.
Can you comment on historical, like, percentage of times when you're not open at Thanksgiving? Is that a 10% thing? Is that a?
I don't know the number right off Thanksgiving, but I did look to see, when in the time that I've been here, the last 36 years, this is the latest we've opened. We opened twice, around December 2nd or 3rd, but we do have a year back in the early 80s where we didn't open until mid-January.
I thought it was like 76 or so.
It might be 6, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm older than you.
Connie Marshall's first year, and there's a picture of Connie.
But I would tell you that without the terrain improvements and the snowmaking upgrades that we have done, we wouldn't have opened last Sunday. So, even the storm really helped, it was dense snow that came, but really not enough. I mean, most of the off-piste skiing now has been skied up, and some areas we can't get open. So we're kind of restricted really to the areas that we have man-made snow, and we still have a few areas that concern. This something like this highlights your weaknesses and where you need to pay some attention to. We'll continue to focus on those. Happy to report that the project that we did this summer across the Crossstow has been beneficial. We've only had 5 nights, I think, that we can even make snow total. And we were able to run a significantly greater portion of the snowmaking system because of those improvements we made with the Crossstow and adding some pumps and some things that were there. So that's worked and played into it. We just wish we had some colder temps that
Yeah.
we have water that we could make turn into snow, we filled temps. So,
Any questions of?
thank you.
No, thanks a lot, Mike. Good luck. I hope.
Yeah,
thank
good
you, all
luck.
of us.
Right. Okay, discussion of possible trailhead restroom ownership. I want to say something about this as an introduction. I'll start with my fixation on bodily functions. Mike convened a meeting, November 21st to discuss trailhead restrooms. But Big D had generously offered to build for the town. The attendees were Mike and his members of the staff, the Big D representatives, Forest Service, town reps. A consensus arose as following. Located on the north side of SR 210, near the entrance to Summer Road, up there, 3 stalls, 188 compliant, heated with flush toilets, built into the hill for avalanche control protection and minimal parking interference. Construction will be next summer and expected operation at the end of the summer. Thanks to all.
Should we do a motion in support of that or express our? Oh, there's more coming, John.
Yeah.
I am sure that this will evolve. And I'm, absolutely certain. But
So is there a trash can beside it and who continues to pay for it?
that's part of the evolution.
Okay, I mean, that's incredible that it's donated, like, really lovely, but
Right.
it is really interesting. Well, I would imagine there's sometimes so much trash, that gets kind of left by backcountry skiers and all of
Sure is.
people who come in, so it's sort of like, wow, it's nice, but I think people see a toilet and they think, oh, I should put something in there too.
There'll probably have to be a trash can or something, because they're like we have. But it's. Big D came to us.
Mike, do you mind coming up? I think the audio was kind of hard to fix that right there.
So Big D came to us about 6 months ago and just said, hey, we really appreciate working these projects and stuff. Is there something we can do for the community? And we said, well, the thing we really need is some restrooms, type of a deal. And so they went back. And so what they're doing is they're going to all of the subs that have been involved in these two projects and asking every one of them to donate to build these. Yes, and put these in place. So it's a kind of a contribution they've got. They're kind of getting to the point that, that it's going to be tight because the caveat here is they will build it next summer. They're not gonna come back and build it a year after, because they build it while they have all the people here doing this work next year. So we have to get it through the Forest Service. Yeah, and so we have trying to fast track it through the Forest Service to get that done. And there's some things that need to be decided rather quickly, and Chris is gonna talk about those here.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, sure, I mean, the reason I asked to amend the agenda, to put this on the agenda. Was that, right, so it's gonna go on national forest, somebody needs to apply for the permit, somebody needs to own it. And, one obvious candidate is the town, it's gonna be a public type, facility. It's gonna be free, it's gonna appear on the site without the town's, spending any money. So that part is of the town owning it is easy. The big question is operations and maintenance, and it's at this point going to be a flush toilet. When we've talked about building a trailhead restroom, I know we would have had to have a lot of discussion about this. My assumption has been that it would be a pit toilet because they are widely understood to be much easier and cheaper to maintain. But we're moving ahead with a flush toilet, big T, at direction of the local stakeholders, just moving ahead on a flush toilet project. So we just don't know enough, as much about operations and maintenance expenses. So Mike and I have talked a little bit about finding some arrangement for the town to share operations and maintenance expenses. Maybe 50-50 starters. It's a little tough at this point because that application does at some point have to get submitted. And
Like before the end of the year.
The application too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it has to get it to the Forest Service, we have to have something in their hands before the end of the year.
Meaning
Okay.
2025?
Correct.
Yeah, because they wanna build it
Especially-
this summer.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was that.
So there's two things, one thing that's pending right now is because it's in an avalanche path. The engineers are looking for whoever will own it to say. That doesn't have to be built to withstand an avalanche, basically, that, we're gonna build it to the side of the hill, and the idea is if an avalanche hits it and wipes it off the face of the earth, then we'll just rebuild it. At that point in time, because it's the cost of building into this, to make an avalanche proof structure is gonna cost prohibitive. So they're wanting to know who's gonna own it, and then whoever needs to own it needs to actually give a letter to the engineers that says it's okay, that it's not built to withstand an avalanche.
And nobody should be out there anyway, because
Yeah.
you're gonna be interlodged
It would
during
be
toilet time.
uninhabited when interlodging on.
Yeah.
But it's not suitable for a flow over type design. It would be, they're just not willing, the engineers aren't willing to donate their services to a building and have liability associated with it.
they stand on the.
Yes.
That
Makes the ton of sense.
But the site that we were looking at. Has a lot of trees above it. It looks like while it's in a path, it doesn't get.
It's on the edge, very edge of the
Yeah,
path, it's
yeah.
actually kind of not right in the path.
Nice.
But it's just one of those places where even given that, the engineers are saying. We want someone else to sign off on this, we're not gonna take liability
Absolutely.
before donating. So that's the issue, and then the second issue Chris referred to is, we just need to work out who's gonna maintain it and service it moving forward. And now the ski lift has offered to go 50-50 with the town on that going forward. So those are just some things that have to be decided rather
Yeah.
quickly.
Leap of faith, I think we acknowledge that things are likely to change in the future. We are making strides on having reliable building maintenance staff on a year-round basis. We read the staff before we get some applicants for our full-time position, which is awesome. Got 3 new snow removal folks, so we do have hands now, and it looks like we're gonna have some. Styria has a department of folks who maintain facilities, including restrooms. So anyways, And there are other arrangements for maintenance and operation of bathrooms. I mean, it's really kind of a coalition of the willing across the central Wasatch for how various sites are maintained. So I think we're sort of looking at a nod from the council that this isn't a bad idea for the town to sort of move forward and work with the ski area to identify some kind of arrangement and potentially be the applicant of the Forest Service.
Also sounds like the Forest Service should pay some of it. I would not want that to get into any problem with getting it there, but it is interesting because who's really gonna use the bathroom? It's the people accessing our National Forest Service.
Right.
It's, you know, yes, you might go to the bathroom before you start skiing it out with your paid ticket, but likely.
There may be an option to get some Forest Service funds down the road that to be able to move this forward.
Oh, yeah.
At that point in time, there really needs just to be that we have to be willing to step up and say, we'll maintain it. And you know, service it and deal with the issue of giving the letter that the engineering firm's willing, you know, and is them indemnified from that building being destroyed.
I support it. I think that, you know, we keep talking about skiing in wintertime, but in the summertime, you know, heavy use at the beginning of the summer road, is pretty intense, and the ski area does kind of manage the summer road. So it makes sense to partnership on this. I'm, you know, thankful for this, that the ski area wants to partner on this with the town because we do have a limited staff right now, and our knowledge of maintaining bathrooms, like Chris said, is not, you know, we don't really know what the budget would be for that. As far as, I guess the other question you guys are asking the council is who's gonna submit this, you know, to the Forest Service? Is that the other question? Is that gonna, whether it's supposed to be the town or the ski area submitting the project?
The town, whoever submits it has to get a special use permit. It's outside of the ski area boundary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's really, that's,
Yeah.
I hadn't appreciated what you described about how for the town to acquire a special use permit on a discrete piece of Forest Service land is probably a lot easier than amending the ski area special use permit boundary, which is either adjacent or, or not.
That's what I was thinking, that the town we should probably submit for the permit.
And I mean, it's funny, you use an SF 299 to like, you know, build a trailhead restroom, even a simpler one, or install a power line across, you know, vast swaths of public lands. I mean, we submitted them. I mean, the paperwork itself is not that big of a deal. It's really the plans behind it. And if you have dialogue with the, you know, agency staff about it, it's all, you know, a backlog of it.
I will be meeting with the Forest Service on Friday on a number of other issues. They may want an update of where we're at. So if we want, you know, if we're still proceeding forward, I'd be glad to report that to them. So
Good.
you can let me know.
Do we think this would?
Sewer lines right there, is that?
Yeah.
Or
Sewer
we're gonna have.
line is, with the little extension that we upgraded this year.
Yeah.
There's a manhole down on the side of the new equipment storage building, and so this bathroom would be right above it. Up in the thing, so they would extend it, so they're willing to extend the sewer line, they're willing to tap into the water line, they're willing to extend power from the pole that's to it, so put all the utilities in, building heated flush toilets, and one of the reasons that we kind of decided that we would like flush toilets rather than just the outhouses, because we have houses above it, we have a lot of people in that area, we don't want the.
So this is on the south side, this is on the south side of Highway 210, not the north.
No, it's
So
north.
it is,
North.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so we go right in the bank, so the sewer line would come up and, you know, get to that building.
I'm sorry, so it's close to the summer road or it's closer to the Grizzly Gulch where Craig's house is?
It's between the two.
It's right.
It's
right between the two.
It's below where Craig's house is.
So where Craig's, where they drive up to their snow caps.
Yeah.
That's a slide path. And then over by the hole and Grizzly itself is a slide path, so it's kind of in between the two slide paths.
Okay.
Right in that area. So yeah.
Is
we do
this
have
gonna-
it on.
Is this gonna be a small NEPA, Mike?
It would be a categorical exclusion, kind of
Okay.
fast track for
Okay.
service. It's a little different, and normally you do the NEPA work and then you get approval to build the building. Given the situation, the Forest Service has said they're willing to approve and let us submit all the work. And then they will do the NEPA work right before the ground is broken.
The surveys, the vegetation surveys.
Vegetation surveys and those type of things, so it will be subject to them not finding something. That would turn it, but we don't anticipate there being any issues given the location we've looked at, there's no wetlands in the area. It's really there's some sensitive plants.
There are no archaeological.
Archaeological cultural issues or anything with endangered species and wildlife, and given where it's at. You don't anticipate there being any issues with that.
I mean, my reading of the Forest Service is very cooperative. I mean, they see,
They're excited about it.
they see this as a big.
Yeah, this is a win for them. I mean, they've needed a bathroom for a long time, so if they can if they can fast track this, that'd be sweet.
I think that's why they're willing to.
With respect to the maintenance of it, I mean, can you see our role being in the cost sharing?
That's what I do, because it's just a cost sharing, how we actually do that, we would work it out, whether the town has maintenance people, or it's our maintenance people, or we're hiring a third party, it really doesn't matter. It's just that the town and the sphere would agree that we'd still share the cost, we just share it.
That seems reasonable, because it may make more sense for their people to do it and us to just reimburse them.
I mean, my concerns are not, I'm not as concerned about day-to-day operations and maintenance expenses, it's more about plumbing issues in this extreme environment and the extreme levels of use that it will see. But again, I'm sure it's something we can figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds great, and we ought to be as supportive as we can. Right. So, because the nearest term action item is the application to the Forest Service, is that right?
Yeah,
Well, I would tell you the nearest action is you have to decide if you're gonna own it.
Okay.
And the engineers need this letter from the town that says you're within, because they're not gonna be held responsible. They're indemnified, whatever it is. I get the terminology, that's
let's put them in touch with me.
Yes.
Do that, okay.
So to prevent another anxious meeting of all of us from the town council, does this require our approval? And
Put it on the agenda that way, so.
cause I mean, I think we all support it, and so I think that with a donated building and the minimal yearly costs, all something that we agree to. And trust your judgment on where it goes and who fills out the application and.
I wanted to discuss in public, I
Pardon me?
wanted to discuss in public
Okay,
by the council, so.
right, but then, you said you have to turn in this thing by
End of the year.
end of the year, so that we don't have to meet again in the next 20 days.
No, I mean, there's a legal reason why we have to do that, why we would have to do that.
Great.
We
Well,
can just proceed.
hang on, we're gonna own it, don't you need a resolution to do that? Or you think just a nod from the council that we're willing to do that formal stuff next year is fine?
We will need a budget amendment and some formal action, but at this point, it's fine for the council just to have a motion to direct the staff to proceed with the application. There's not going to be any money spent. There's not going to be any ownership exchanged. And so I think it's fine at this point.
Okay, well, I'd like to move that we empower the staff to whatever steps are necessary to move this thing along and keep it on track.
Sounds great.
A second.
Yeah, look a little disquieted there.
Oh, no.
We're not-
It's fine.
I don't know if
Let's
we're
get
voting on this. This isn't an action item on the agenda, right? We're not voting.
No, we were looking for head nods.
Yeah.
of
Oh, head
the
nods,
sta-
okay.
That the staff is moving in the right direction. Chris didn't want to be going in a direction against, and that the public was aware
I
of.
think it's broad support, and
Yeah.
you're gonna have a hard time convincing me that the pit approach is gonna have greater capacity, and I think the issue here is this is gonna be a really popular place.
I think so.
The fact that it's on the sewer line, I think is gonna be a positive.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be great. I would rather go in a heated bathroom than
I mean,
a
it's-
toilet every day.
It was interesting to hear that they pump the White Pine restrooms 3 times a year. And those are very popular,
Oh.
probably not as popular as this, but. I mean, there are other sites on the forest that see as much use at other pit toilets, so. I mean, all that being said, like if it's possible to get it on the utilities, then that is a big reason to
Right.
make it a flush toilet. More people are gonna use it, I mean,
Yeah.
So, you know, we're really at the stage of just trying to move it forward and get it approved. You know, and get some, you know, we kind of know these headlines that we would have an agreement that the share in the cost and that the town would own it, and then they can start to draft other things and get it to happen. The Forest Service just made it clear is they needed a draft design by the end of the year. And so we've got the engineers and architects trying to work to put that together. So, yeah. Thank you, very excited. Yeah.
I just
Right.
wanted to say that last meeting or whenever this was brought to us, I don't know if this was Chris or Mike that said it to us, but I feel like it was the most positive, you know, bomb you could have dropped in the council. Like it was like, it went off with sparkles and glitter and we were all just like, whoa. Anyways, that is like the highlight, one of the highlights of my town council year is like hearing about this toilet.
Highlight of my whole term.
that's right. Or the platform.
Okay, let's turn now to questions regarding the department reports. I have one comment, and that is the marshal's report. Looked like you issued a total of 1 ticket. Oh, that's fun.
Thought I read 4, right?
All right.
That's what happens
I
when this
thought-
area doesn't open for a couple
Yeah.
weeks.
This is the report from a sleepy little mountain town. Kind of off the edge of everything, about to be invaded by 1,000 people.
It was also a theft though.
Was there a theft? I missed that.
It was cleared.
Oh, okay. Any other statements, issues, clarifications concerning the department reports? Okay, let's move on. Approval of the November 12th town council meeting minutes and December staff and finance reports
If we could say as amended.
as amended. As
Because
amended.
I reissued them, that would be helpful, I think, for the minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you didn't read the updated financial report, you probably won't be, because it's
Much better.
much fun.
I think I actually had something to say about this, maybe not.
My apologies for the head beating down.
What?
The head pounding.
So I need the balance.
Well, it was bugging me too, and it just took until I had had this conversation with Steve to figure out what the issue was.
Okay. Any other comments?
I thought the minutes were well done.
Me too, I went through it all.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. All right, do we have to make a motion to approve? Okay. I'm a move that we approve the November 12th town council meeting minutes and department staff and financial reports as amended.
Yes.
I second. Oh, sorry.
So,
I second.
all in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, all right, the mayor's report. And basically couldn't tell, I'm really jazzed about this toilet. Big deal, yeah, I mean. I haven't figured out what the opening ceremony is gonna be, or you know, what the silver but I'm working on that. I trust everybody had a good Thanksgiving, we're all well and blessed with recent snow. Our neighbor, on the downside, our neighbor Snowbird lost a key member of their staff recently. Tina Biddle, who was their ski school director, she had been a ski patrol director, sorry. Been the bird for this whole century. We express our sympathy to our neighboring resort for her untimely demise. As has been mentioned here, more than once, UDOT has issued an EA for the for transportation in Putnam Canyon, and it is, I think, would be much in our interest to, number one, see if we can't get the uh, date for the comments deferred, and number two, make our own comments to it. Excuse me. Excuse me, there's some growing concern in the legislature about the rapid growth in property tax, with some moves towards limiting the rate of increase in property tax. And this cuts, sorry. This cuts two ways. One is tax. Oh, thank you. Where'd that come from? As taxpayers, it's welcome. But as a taxing entity, sometimes we need a quick step. So stand by for what happens on that. Now to monthly astronomy report, which I passed up last time. This has to do with the Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis. Some of you may have seen that a month ago. It wasn't visible here because the northern horizon is obscured. But what happened? There are really two phenomena, one on the Earth and one on the Sun. The Sun isn't just a hot ball of luminescent gas, it's a complex churning mass of hydrogen atoms interacting with each other and fusing to become helium, hence the term fusion, as in fusion bomb. It's a nasty neighborhood. Lots of stuff going on there. What happens is that hydrogen nuclei are moving so fast that they overcome the natural repulsion due to the fact that they're both electrically positively charged. They smash into each other and form a new nucleus, that of helium. But the helium nucleus is a little bit less massive than the two hydrogen form. So what happens to that leftover mass? It's converted to energy, calculated by the famous equation E equals mc squared, where m is the leftover mass, c is the speed of light, is a big number, and c squared is a really big number. And so that's what is turning the sun on. It's a rough neighborhood, and sometimes things get very turbulent, as they did last month. And the next figure shows what's going on the sun last month. And it looks like this. And these bright spots are basically storms going on within the sun, and are creating more energetic particles and spitting them out in what are called coronal mass ejections. So those coronal mass ejections go out into the solar system and come to the Earth. And a picture of what happens when they come to the Earth is here. They interact with the Earth's magnetic field. The magnetic field of the Earth is part on the right with these what would you call them, chartreuse little ears that stick out. But the most intense part of the Earth's magnetic field is at the poles, where the magnetic field is most concentrated. And that's where these coronal mass ejections are bent over and then collide with the molecules of air on the Earth and cause them to glow. And so that's why the Northern Lights are in the north. There are also Southern Lights, there's just not a lot of people down there don't see them. And that's why they come up occasionally. Now, it turns out that the largest CME, coronal mass extension on record, was called the Carrington event in 1859. It fried all the telegraph system in place. Had we had satellites in space then, they would have been cooked. It's easy to forget how dependent we are on the constellation of satellites that's above us. Weather, TV, GPS, a whole bunch of other functions that we just take for granted. And it's invisible. But big coronal mass extension, coronal mass ejection could do a lot of work, do a lot of damage to us. This one didn't. So coming up next month, Margaret only mentioned this, Carolyn, Craig and me will be sworn in. Craig will move from the second row of the staff, the table. And however, he leaves a hole, and that is of the treasurer, so we'll be on a prowl for a treasurer, and suggestions will be most welcome. The next town council meeting will be on January 4th at 4 p.m. And that day will have 15 minutes more daylight than this one does.
Did you just say January 14th?
At 4 p.m.
Oh, I thought you said 4th.
14th.
I apologize. I was like,
We're not ready.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, end of the mayor's report, Wasatch Front Regional Council grant for planning assistance, Chris.
I was just disquieted, again, I had a disquieted facial expression because I felt like we talked about having an action item on the agenda for the restroom thing. I said, no, we did it. I guess one. I just like to think through the process. Anyway, it's all good. Do you want me to share? Okay, so we've been hinting at the topic of, well, we've been talking about updating the general plan forever. We've acknowledged in our discussions of, you know, long range planning, to-dos and projects in the short medium term that a general plan update project we need to do and get one on the calendar. And we've hinted in the past couple of months about our desire to put in an application to the Wasatch Front Regional Council for a grant of funds for us to hire consultants to do a general plan update. The application is due tomorrow. We've written it up. And we just wanna talk to you guys about it, tell you what we're thinking, you know, describe, you know, what process will unfold in the grant making process. And get your input on whether you think we're headed in the right direction or not. For the time being. So anyway. So we'll talk about the current general plan, we'll talk about this funding opportunity, we'll talk about you know, what our requirements are to have a general plan under state code. We'll talk a little bit about where we think general plan update should go, and see if you guys have feedback for us on that. So the general plan, you know, we've long acknowledged that it's overdue for an update. It's from 2005. It's interesting to note that the LUDMA is the Land Use and Development Management Act. That's what governs municipal land use regulation. And that had a major sort of infamous overhaul in 2005 and 2006. I don't imagine it's a problem that this plan may not have been updated since LUDMA was updated. Maybe it looks like it was updated before LUDMA was fully overhauled. So anyway, that's just kind of a data point. The last updates we've made to the Town of Alta general plan, the important one I think is from 2013, we adopted the vision statement and a sort of context statement that's interesting. And then we had adopted that section 4 town center commercial, that's where the commercial core concept comes from. We did adopt an amendment in 2016, just to acknowledge that we've done this commercial core plan project, but some of you may remember it was also funded by a WFRC grant. You know, the general plan is, they sort of run the gamut. They're all land use guiding documents. Some of them are broader planning documents, and that's really what, well, ours is a sort of a statement of general policy. Much of which is future oriented. But as we'll get into, there are some things happening in the here and now that it doesn't address since it's 20 years old. So the WFRC, the grant process, they provide grants to municipalities in 5 counties. To do mostly general plan updates. You can get a grant for a small area plan or a station area plan, a transportation master plan, things like that. You can't like do capital projects with these, and you can't do engineering design. So it's just higher level. We have won 3 of these grants. We did the commercial core plan. With one of these grants, we did a so-called active transportation plan that essentially led to the median out there, which I know everybody loves. And then we got some help thinking about parking a few years ago. We actually put in for a different project and then decided it wasn't right and wound up sort of reprogramming it. Something you can do with these. So if we get a grant, the awards are typically, they have, I guess I'm not certain these will be announced in March, but they're typically announced in March. And then the funds are available on July 1st. And it's cool that it works. They hold the funds. We'll pay a contribution, a matching contribution to WFRC, and then they hold all the funds. They hold the contract with consultants and they manage, I mean, they send us the bills to approve. But they crack the whip and they're really partners with us, and it's really a cool program. That reduce of grant management, which, you know, for these amounts of money, I mean, a $200,000 grant from you know, coming straight to the town has all sorts of strings attached and bells and whistles. And so we do have to make a financial match. It's 6.77%. We've really done the bare minimum in the past. I think it's safe to say we're, you know, pending council support and approval, we're capable of exceeding the bare minimum. The commercial core plan was a $105,000 project, I believe, 10 years ago, and it was, I felt like it was underfunded given the scope we wrote. The program staff tends to encourage bigger asks these days, because I think their experience is that you're more successful the more budget you ask for. So we do have a $200,000 project bust in there now. I don't know where I got $21,000.
It's supposed to be 20.
From. It's 6.7%. 14,000%. Yeah, so I would propose we contribute more, and we have 20,000 in the application right now.
I think 20 was the number we had discussed, doing a
Yeah.
10% match.
Yeah, so that's what I would propose. I mean, we don't have a budget amendment here, and it's just sort of a leap of faith on this. And I think it's future year, we wouldn't make the payment until next year, so it's just not really.
And we don't know how much the grant's gonna be, so.
Yeah, they could give us less, and then we have to make less of a contribution, or we could not get it, so. You know, there is like a little bit of a last step we'll have to take in order to realize this, which would be to adopt a budget.
So do we want a motion encouraging you to proceed with this application?
Again, I mean, I think, you know, Cameron might advise us to do that. I don't think we have to. Because we're not spending money yet. I mean, we're not obligated. You know, is it an obligation upon submitting an application? I doubt it, but.
Just offering. Can I ask you another question? Do you see the land use code update as being part of this, or is that really a separate thing?
The one I've been talking about?
Well, the one that's that we need to talk about.
Yeah, well,
Does
I
that
have
fall under
not.
this, or is it in parallel kind of a thing?
well, that is something they fund. They fund code updates. So we could propose a code update. They also have, WFRC offers an in-house project at no cost to use. I just noticed the other day to do like a code inventory for like compliance, which is super cool, and we should talk about it. So we could write it in,
Where you would do this first and then a land use code after.
well,
We've got, I mean, a couple of terms, yeah, yes, I'll come up, sorry.
Thank you.
So, a couple of comments. I actually read the 2005 plan, and if you remember, I gave us Fs in a number of categories. And the reason that I did, I actually was a consultant for a while, and while I was consulting, people get all excited about visions. And when you do these kinds of things, they get, you know, they like to, but I said, look, there is a fine line between a vision and an illusion. And that line is defined by capacity execution capacity. And most of the things that I gave F's on were things that it'd be really nice, everybody here was in favor of them, but without any allocation of budget, or at least some idea of how it fits into our long-term budget plan, then it's an illusion. And so what I would say is, I'm really proud of the progress we've made on long-term planning stuff. But when we're gonna do something like this, we need to, you know, the plans that we're putting in, we need to say, how does that fit into the long-term budget thing? And the reason I would say don't do this sequentially is I think the other big thing here, and we know we need a land use thing, but if we are putting visionary planks in here, meaning stuff that we haven't done before, then we have to say, is that consistent with what we want to do in the land use plan, or inconsistent with it? So I just think you'll get a much better quality plan if you do the land use thing at the same time and make sure we're, you know, we don't necessarily have to say, all right, this is $100,000 and it goes in there. But if we can't see how it fits into our overall financial plan, given, you know, the news that we got on the sewer and the water and building stuff, that it probably shouldn't be in there.
My only comment on that would be that I think the general plan should drive the land use plan changes, not the other way around.
oh yeah,
Right?
Yeah, sure.
yes, and so I don't want, I wanna move through this, but there are a couple things we need to do with our land use regulations, and one is update for compliance with state code, whatnot, and just sort of general housekeeping. I've talked about that. I think that's what you and I are talking about. What's an application for this? What's an application for that? So on and so forth. So updating the actual land use policies about where can you have a hotel, where can you have a meatpacking plant, that would be ideally subsequent to a general plan update, and we haven't told them we're going to do a code update. We have indicated in the application that we may. Well, I think we want to be prepared to make updates to the base facility soon. It may not change, but any number of things could change, so it might, and you know, what's something we've been talking a lot about is, you know, what is the commercial core vision, like we just need to reconsider the commercial core vision and talk about whether we should change the goals and how to implement them.
What's a residential unit?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think that would be really.
Yeah.
Needs to be addressed.
Yep.
No, I'm very excited about this, and I hope you get the grant, and I hope that the thing moves forward, and I think it's always an exciting time doing these general plans. I remember the 2005 general plan update. I was probably living here 7 or 8 years by then. I worry a little bit. The one thing I worry about with, and the $200,000 number to me just seems like this giant amount of money. It's probably not as big as it seems. I'm sure we'll go through it, but you know, one thing about, I think it's important that we don't outsource our critical thinking. That, are we really, I'm cool with the 200 grand in the application. But I hope that doesn't mean we're really gonna start it from scratch. Cause I think we have a plan that, for better or worse, we're all pretty attached to and means a lot to us. And I think about, just some of the different issues that have confronted the planning commission in the last year, and these are important issues and they're important to the constituents of Alta. And I worry that we bring in all these high-powered people and our voices get lost in that, and I think I wanted to just sort of raise that issue.
I do not relish bringing consultants into Alta. I think consultants, sorry, Craig, sound often sound tone deaf, like they know that. It's just part of being a consultant, and I think there are a few places that are as hard to sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it needs to develop more organically from the people that actually live here, that are our constituents, and I think it's a continuation of the history that's gone before.
Yeah.
And so that's, the 2005 plan is an important part of that.
I'm wondering, John, if part of this, we should have an advisory council that's, beyond the town council of citizens who are, really interested and invested in our community.
I was thinking this morning about that, and I think that, we have so many talented people, not only on this body, but also in the planning commission, that, for you to try to appoint, or the mayor appoint a commission that, maybe a couple of citizens, but also one or two people from the planning commission, and if there's a volunteer from the town council, in addition to the mayor, I think this would be a natural thing for the mayor to be involved with too. And so that it develops organically, rather than having other people come and tell us what our plan should be, but we always just have generate so much pushback to that, and there's no ownership of it, and then no enthusiasm for really going forward with it, and I know you're sensitive to this issue.
And I think that's a great idea, as we are improving our long-term planning stuff. We have a good sense of what we need to do through the financial stuff, but these have big implications to the town. And the two areas that I see that we can really get town people involved, we got a lot of expertise here. It is going to be a financial plan, helping us determine, how much do we finance and all that kind of stuff that we need. And then this, and I think this is really an important time to do this, before we do bond issuance, before we do all those things. So that we actually get the town people involved. Not just because of their expertise, but we need a bit of more of a movement than this coming, even from the town council.
Yeah, more buy-in.
Yeah. The participation is what will make this stuff, and that's what the bond people call this community in front of.
So I guess just to, Molly. I think, I hopefully this addresses both of your comments, but general plans are published processes. General plans are about the process. The process is really as important, more important than the document or the product. And a big part of, public involvement is expensive. Because you gotta have meetings, and you gotta have people to staff the meetings, you gotta take comments, and you gotta collate them, and you gotta analyze, so.
That's where the consultants help.
Yeah, right, there are public relations consultants and. So, yes, my instinct initially was not to ask for a big grant. Code updates are expensive too,
Right, and on that, the outside consultants bring a lot to the table.
Yeah.
I thought the guy who did the little bit of code work last year, I thought he brought a lot to the table.
Yeah. Okay, so, there are requirements for general plan, land use. It's a land use guiding document, and then you have to have these things in most cities. You have to have a moderate income housing element, and you have to have a water preservation element. I don't believe we have to have those because we are a town by population. We're small enough, we don't have to have those. Transportation and traffic circulation element, we're not explicitly excused from, but we don't own transportation infrastructure, so just don't know what to make of that. That being said, we are gonna talk a lot about transportation in this grant project. There's all this other stuff that general plans do that's describing the code as a may, and I won't go into that. Can you admit to slide?
So you should be able to do it now.
Thank you. How about another couple? Oh, here we go. Okay. I don't think I need to talk that much about this stuff, you know, but planning commissions develop and recommend to the council general plans. It's a land use guiding document. They're not binding. It's important. I don't know if they're binding anywhere, but under LEDMA, they're in Utah, they're not binding. You know, I mentioned the town center commercial general plan update. It led to the big base facility zone amendment in 2016. So that's a good example of how general plans really function. These are some planning commission slides I worked up, just sort of, you know, inventorying a number of things that have changed in the last 20 years. I won't go through them all, but 20 years is obviously a long time in the state of Utah, a long time in the ski industry, and it's a long time here in Alta and Cotton Canyon. But of course, Alta has probably changed less than a lot of resort communities and a lot of, you know, communities in high growth parts of the country. You know, our population has basically not changed despite COVID having an impact on how many people were here in early April of 2020. Alta ski area is owned more or less by the same folks it's always been owned by, which is utterly unique in a destination ski area and really super cool. The rest of our business community is super stable. You know, our community of major business operators anyways. And you know, a lot of those properties haven't changed that much. You know, the only real significant response to the base facility zone amendment in 2016 was the Snowpine redevelopment. Land ownership patterns in Alta, I mean, one of the things that could have changed, it would have been, you know, a giant land exchange or a significant land exchange out of mountain improvement that didn't occur. That would have been a, you know, that would have been a night and day shift of in Alta and the way Alta works, and the big land exchange had occurred, so that hasn't happened.
Yeah, you know, when you say Snowpine, I would say the only thing so far.
For sure.
I mean, you know, it always feels like we're on the cusp of redevelopment of the existing lodges. It's gonna be the big element of the core commercial.
Yeah.
So.
And then you have a year like this and you're like, wow, am I gonna invest all that money building a resort that I can only, or a hotel that I can only really get?
For a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we might not have changes.
I think is gonna be the driving, or the $64,000 question, you know, are we gonna start allowing condos in this part of the town? Or are we not? And I personally would be, and today, I would say that I would prefer not to see condos. Because I think it would just affect more change than we really need to deal with, but that'll be, I think, a big important question in this study.
I'm not saying we want redevelopment necessarily, but it is probably inevitable, and
Oh, yeah, so it's inevitable.
okay, so this is still pretty much applies. It's, you know, it's 6 days old now, this slide, but this is what we proposed the focus of the project would be. Update the vision statement, or and John, I appreciate that you point out the general plan is not that far off. So
No, it's really not.
yeah, I mean, I've read it a few times.
Yeah, I read
and
most of it, just
it's out there, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
It's just that communities, we do these things routinely, and there's just so much value in that, and there's a lot of value. We don't need to you know, harp on that. But so anyway, make sure the vision statement still applies, or change it if it doesn't. That commercial core vision, you know, and does the base facility zone support that vision? Is it the right tool that implement vision? The, you know, UDOT transportation projects, particularly the improved bus service, is going to be a major that's something we really gotta get our hands around and, you know, I've been in discussions with UDOT, with Devin Weeder about our intention to do a general plan update, and I think the timing is really good for UDOT to move over to Little Cottonwood and start to build out this enhanced bus program, because we're gonna get some technical assistance on our end. But we would if we got a grant to, you know, provide some input to UDOT about what station area needs are and how are we gonna integrate the shuttle. All those other things.
It's incredible how reliant on UDOT the Big Cotton Canyon plan is. I mean, it's like really the heart of it.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's kind of an aggravating thing to read because you say, well, how come they're not offering this to us in our.
Well, they are now. They just have to come over here.
Oh, is that right? And
They're
move away from the gondola?
So, yeah,
Because this is the solution?
I thought they told us it was gonna cost so much money.
But I do think progress, I'm hopeful that progress will be made early in the year.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
Water source capacity, so, there are things that we don't do that we need to be doing when it comes to permitting and development applications as far as, reviewing for water use, and I hesitate to say a whole lot more about it than that, but. Just having this opportunity to work with SNL and this has been pretty eye-opening for me about what we ought to be doing, and I think there's some really low-hanging fruit. But anyway, so that is, you know, the general plan update can be an opportunity for us to sort of scenario plan various build outs. Because, you know, the base facility zone would support a build out that would exceed our current source capacity, right? So if all the hotel property or all base facility zone properties are built out to max out the zoning, we would exceed our source capacity. Present day, so.
On peak days.
Yes, but that's what we can't do, so, anyway. And then, yeah, just, you know, it's a 20-year-old general plan, and my opinion is that most of it or much of it still works, but, every other city is, updates their plan periodically, especially one that's as broad as ours. It's interesting, Park City's general plan is a land use guiding document, and then they have this like, you know, massive bookshelf of other planning documents, like they're drowning in plans in Park City, but so the general plan itself is not as broad. Yeah, so 20 years since the last update, I think we all agree that, you know, the Toronto State shell shaft proposals have raised some questions that would really just, it's so much harder to consider that stuff absent a recent general plan update. UDOT project.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So that was in your town report about the shell shaft, but then we never discussed that. Is that like,
There's nothing discussed yet.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, it will get to the town council.
eventually,
Yeah.
okay, but we didn't discuss it because we don't need to yet.
Right, we don't need to. Yeah.
Okay.
I wanna highlight, you know, the last bullet is about the sort of the bandwidth question, and I think there's also a question about what can the community tolerate or understand. And I haven't explicitly assumed or thought, like figured out how a general plan update would sort of be two birds, or, you know, approach two birds and be both. A capital improvement and long range financial planning project and a general plan update, but it's worth considering, and I wanna point out that I think doing a general plan update could potentially get more public involvement than just a financial planning process, and
And I don't, we couldn't host any Olympic events because we only have one way in, no way out.
yeah,
So, that's on the, I mean, there's obviously gonna be money in development for that, but.
yeah, it's just. Even if there's no events in Little Cotton, I wasn't here for the 2002 Olympics, but I mean,
It was training,
there's.
it was training practice, and there was, you know, a bunch of foreign skiers there.
It could be other changes in the region or.
Okay, but it's
State
not like
Utah,
we're
I
planning
just
on
think it's-
hosting an event.
No,
not.
The visitation to Little Cottonwood Canyon was very high that year because of the Olympics.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there are
Well,
tourists who came too.
sure, and it's often an opportunity for public money, and if you're
Right.
not hosting events, then maybe you're not eligible for that, but. I mean, there's a lot of cities and towns in Utah that want seeing the Olympic visitation, and there's a fairness and equity issue that like the Utah legislature deals with when. We bring a bunch of people to the metro and shower with public money, so anyway. I've been talking a lot, so I'm gonna ask for everybody about. General update,
I think you made a good case.
Go for
and
Yeah, I think you're sensitive to the issues.
well, thank you, and so we submit an application. If we get an award, there are a couple of opportunities down the line to. Sort of formalize the scope of work, so it can really. It can shift and change with us. So.
it. One of the most encouraging things I found about this was, John Napstead, who's the, planning commission chairman, said he thought there was probability of getting this award, it was very high.
Yeah.
That's
Getting the award.
getting the award, yeah, getting the award.
Well, and you know, when you talk about the capital project funding too, you know, there's gonna have to be some triggering event to get. To bring people's focus to that, I mean, I think getting that out sort of off the schneid and moving forward is gonna be the tough part, and maybe this will be the key or a key to public engagement that, you know, builds support for the capital funding, which is a pretty big need, pretty big ask.
Yeah,
So
sure. Well, thank you.
Well done.
yeah. Alright.
Let's see, where are we? New business? No,
Nope.
no.
That'd be as fast as possible.
Renewables, Energies update, yeah.
Yeah, so, Utah Renewable Communities used to be a community renewable energy program. The town has been participating in this since its inception. And the reason I'm giving this, or, you know, we have this in the agenda in the packet today, is that, as soon as January, Public Service Commission could make a decision on this program, which the town is participating in. That could trigger a final action to participate by the town council within 90 days of that decision. So, and there's a hearing at the Public Service Commission, a public hearing. On the 16th of December, which you can attend virtually or in person downtown. So anyways, we're sort of all the communities are making their rounds to their legislative bodies, since we will have to take action if the program gets approved.
And you suggested that I go to that, did you not?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I would go with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's 19 cities and counties that passed resolutions, establishing a net 100% clean electricity goal by 2030. It was enabled by an act of the state legislature in 2019, actually. The goal, is to acquire clean energy to match our consumption, basically. The 19 cities and counties participating is 25% of the Rocky Mountain Power electrical in the state of Utah, so it's really significant. It is a net renewable program. So this is basically what the program will do is fund development of additional resources that'll be plugged into the grid, and it's impossible we don't propose that the electrons from the solar panels and wind farms go to our houses. It's just it adds it to the grid, essentially equivalent to our consumption. We're involved. We adopted a resolution. It was way back in December of 2019 at the last minute. We signed a utility agreement, and we've made a couple of very modest payments, like a couple $100 to fund program development. It's based on population. I think the program has cost a total of about $800,000 to develop, but it's largely funded by cities with bigger populations. It's, like I said, it's really impactful. It's a unique program. A program like this doesn't exist in other states, although in other states, well, anyways, I won't get into the politics, but this is an opt-in program. It's technically an opt-out program, but if we decide to take the final step to join, our ratepayers in Alta will have the opportunity to opt out. Clean energy, it used to be called renewable energy, but the legislature changed the statute and it's now clean energy. So that is what we are all about. And obviously it has, health and environmental benefits and can support jobs in local economies. So it's an opt-out program. So if we decide to join the program when the program launches, which I believe occurs when the resource that we build goes online, then Rocky Mountain Power will send notices to our ratepayers for 2 billing cycles. So you get these notices in the mail, you'll have the option to opt out for free. After that point in time, it will be a termination fee. The way that Utah Renewable Communities thinks the program will work, or the way we want it to work, is that it will cost $3 to $4 a month above your bill for the average residential customer. There is there are provisions for support for low income ratepayers that was required by HB 411 by the statute. We actually don't have any low income electricity ratepayers in Alta. That's public information, and there's been a ton of data on that going into the program. But of course, Salt Lake City has quite a few, and there are some pretty robust. There's some support options for low income folks. I won't go through all this, but basically we're through the green dots, and the only steps that remain are the blue dots. So again, we're up to that Public Service Commission review and decision, and that was anticipated to happen in the first 3 months of 2026. There's a committee structure. It's all staff led, although the contributions to fund program development have supported a outside counsel, this energy attorney who's really good, and then technical consultants sort of helps talk about how how does one procure renewable energy resources. The program has issued an RFP that closed in July and got 14 bids, and one of the big questions here is the climate for renewable energy development is very bad right now. So how is this possibly going to work? We got 14 bids, narrowed it down to 6. And that seems to be indication enough to the experts that we're going to get some resources built here before the tax credits dry up and all of that. Anyway, the program application, that's just the whole docket before the Public Services Commission that they will rule upon. I'm not going to get into this. But it's a very complex process. So key takeaways. So there is this Public Service Commission hearing, and then the commission is going to decide as early as January. Might take until March. It might be a partial decision or a sort of phased decision on parts of the program. And we don't know, I guess it's not super clear in this slide, but we don't know exactly what the program is going to look like. And that's why I was describing that our position is that it's the program, URC's position is that it should cost no more than $3 or $4 per month. But there are all these, there are highly technical elements being deliberated by the Public Service Commission. There's points of disagreement between the utility and this program about how it is all going to shake out, and that could affect the program rate, amongst other things. So anyway, the commission will issue its decision, and then that will trigger this 90-day period of time when the town will have to pass, the council will have to pass an ordinance, the draft of which we've seen, well, it's been a couple of years, finalizing participation for Rocky Mountain Power customers inside the town of Alta boundary. So anyways, that's really the reason for having this on the agenda. I've had in staff reports just in narrative form the past couple months. There is, but most likely, we assume the program will be approved in some form, and then we'll have to make a final decision.
Chris, are you sure this thing is at 9 AM on Tuesday? My calendar.
That's interesting. That, so the 9 AM is like a technical hearing. And it is open to the public, but that's where agency, the URC's legal counsel and Rocky Mountain Power sort of argue with each other in front of the Public Service Commission about the docket. And then the public hearing, it's interesting, I did not develop this slide deck. Really.
I have it as starting at 6 PM.
Yes, it is 6 PM, and I wish I caught that or pointed it out to the folks that produced it. So, but yes, the Public Service Commission public hearing, called the public witness hearing, which is interesting. That is at 6 PM on next Tuesday.
Okay.
At the Heber M. Wells Building downtown, so. You come to my house and I'll drive you in, Roger, if you want. For real.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So, yeah.
Should we express our support?
I think so. I'm trying to think of reasons why we wouldn't do this, and I can't come up with any.
A lot of work for the staff.
I mean, I've been participating, the whole time.
Okay.
And I attend a couple meetings a month.
So it's kind of following house into a schedule.
Sure. A meeting, but it is somewhat technical and not as good at speaking to it as the really technical folks at Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City has like a staff of people who are developing this program. Salt Lake City County has some very involved staff and. There's really I don't think there's a single thing that we could do to reduce, carbon emissions. Here at the town that would have a bigger impact than. Participating in this program and having folks actually remain opted into it. And we don't have a climate action plan in town. And a lot of ski towns do, but we don't, and that's okay. We've got other fish to fry, and so this is a really pretty low investment way for the town to have an impact.
We could start by greening the toilet.
Well,
Well, no, but I mean, all jokes aside, I mean, there could be like some kind of solar, there could be some other things that, there are some opportunities out there. I think we're the only LEED certified or passive home in the canyon. And I think Alta, the lift companies. Building is certified, but it is really interesting that, and I mean, we built our home 15 years ago, so there were homes built after ours that could have been encouraged to do so.
Totally.
It might be interesting to do, all jokes aside, but the toilet might be an easy thing to sort of like make sure that we have low flow toilets? Are we like doing that as like an example in the community sense? I mean, I know that they're donating the building and all that stuff, and maybe like, these Carol, we're going down a deep dive.
the way the Big D folks described this, said, this is a turnkey deal.
Well,
It's awesome.
I mean, that's just general plan update stuff. Sure. Our general plan, here in town of Alta, all dependent on ski ticket revenue, I don't believe it says climate change, doesn't say wildfire. Just coming out, so it really should.
It should.
We should acknowledge it.
Maybe we'll remember this year.
Yes,
And the
right, it
most
is
snow.
awfully up there.
Okay. I think we're ready for new business.
Before you go to new business,
Yeah.
I did have a question.
Sure.
Which is, Margaret and Dell, talked about, the big Cottonwood Canyon
Yeah.
timeframe to make the conduct. My question is, was there any action item?
Yeah, that's the right question.
And personal, Roger, Margaret's already written a beautiful response. But I think there's probably a difference between a comment by Roger Burke versus a comment by the mayor of Alpha. And the last time we wrote, a letter, it was 2 or 3 meetings to actually get the verbiage out. We don't have time to do that.
No.
So my question is, does the town want you to just write a letter on this narrow issue of expanding the comment period? Or,
I think I would call that something that's sufficiently non-controversial that I could do that kind of on my own. Recognizance.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
Well, you can write the comment letter on extending the comment period, or are you just gonna write the comment?
No, I think letter number one is to extend the comment period. Letter number two would be something I should bounce off on the table. Yeah, yeah.
And I'll just describe that, like, I think whether the council can get a comment into UDOT on the Big Cottonwood
Boy.
And there's no alcohol in there, huh?
No sugar added either, so. My understanding of the bus program in Big Cottonwood Canyon, bus and tolling program is that the idea is that it's gonna look a lot like the one in Little Cottonwood Canyon, or the Little Cottonwood, vice versa. And that neither will be actually implemented on the ground until both are sort of approved and determined.
I just think
So-
it's nice that they don't have to talk about a gondola.
Yeah, that is nice.
The better we can support the bus program, the less likely we're to ever have to.
Yeah.
Well, and the frequencies and stuff that they're describing in the thing I read on Snowbrains or something. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, it's a high level of bus. Of what was our wildest dream for a number of years.
And the stops are. I mean, that's a big opportunity. A stop is a big opportunity, and I think if we play the right way, we get some public benefit out of it that is not just transportation. So,
You mean the shelter, the building itself?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It's a nice building that looks like they designed for Big Cottonwood Canyon.
I think that, Roger, you can ask for an extension on the comment period. I don't think we're gonna get it. So we probably either need to comment individually as citizens. I don't know. Yeah, there's no guarantee you're gonna get it. I mean, that the 9th is
True.
pretty close. So I'm also a little confused. I mean, are we as a town supporting the Big Cottonwood? Or are we like having a bunch of questions? I'm still kind of a little confused of where everybody's at on the Big Cottonwood EIS. I mean, I'm supportive of it, but I guess I'm a little confused about like, are we gonna do a negative comment or a positive comment?
I'm supportive of it, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I read the descriptive material on the internet.
Yeah, so that's just what I'm asking is like, if we're gonna do a town comment, we probably need to have a little talk about that and what the content of that is gonna be. Otherwise, we just need to do individual public comments as, citizens. Like I said, I don't think we're gonna get the comment period extended just because the town of Alta is requesting it. I mean, we aren't in Big Cottonwood Canyon, so I don't know if they're gonna extend it for us.
I expected others to ask for an extension too. Yeah, the 9th of January is terrible.
But they likely did it on purpose.
I think other towns are going to ask for an
Yeah.
extension, at least. I still think you're probably right, it probably won't be granted, but if a number of towns ask for it, I think there's a higher probability that will happen.
Okay, I have one other new business item. This meeting marks the last one which John will attend as a member of the council, at least for now. John has been a dedicated public servant for these 4 years. The town has greatly benefited from his expertise and experience, particularly in matters of finance. And in terms of completing his homework, John has earned an A+.
It's been a pleasure working with all of you and I've really enjoyed it.
Good.
Hope I get a chance to serve again someday.
Yeah. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, we're adjourned. Thanks.
Wait.
And-
John, sorry I wasn't there for your last meeting.
Oh, that's okay. You're doing the important work over there. Nice to serve with you.
5 minutes.
You too.
Good work.